Welcome to the FATED podcast, episode 138. It's been a while, guys, and I'm sure some of you thought we were never coming back, and to be honest, I wasn't quite sure when the next episode was gonna happen, but then the Settlers of Kalguur announcement dropped, and we knew we had to come back because this was gonna be a banger. So, welcome with me, the co-host, Valor Mage. How are you doing?
Well, hello. I'm doing fantastically. Really excited for Garrison League. I mean, Settlers of Kalguur. Settlers of Kalguur.
Sounds good to me. Wait, why did you say Garrison League? Oh, because of the mechanic.
Garrison League.
Well, are you ready to get our guests in?
Yeah, let's go.
Yo, welcome, Snoo. How are you doing?
What's up? 2
Hi.
hours of sleep, but I'm in an excellent mood for being
That's
alone.
enough.
For only 2 hours of sleep, I'm in an excellent mood.
2 hours of sleep, but more than 2 hours of podcast, probably, because we can't keep it to 2 hours, even if we try, but we'll try our best. But with us today, we also have UncleJay.
Hey guys,
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, by the way. I am also in the hype for Cowgirls, so I cannot wait for it.
Well, let's dive right into it. Like, what were your first thoughts when you saw the announcement? I mean, with the title that we knew and the teaser with the boat and the resources being featured. I mean, there were sheep in the background and corn and all that. Did you guys think we're actually going to get an in-game implementation of Settlers of Catan, or what was your best guess, and like how did you react when you actually saw what the league is all about? You want to go first, Snoop?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's the biggest reason why I'm excited about the league is because it seems like it's so long between each league. Like, I'm just excited to finally get a refresh on the economy, to get something new, and to get out of this funk of Necropolis, which I think I speak for just about everybody when I say that.
Yeah, we've had enough of that, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I've also noticed a trend of every other. There is no such thing as two bad leagues in a row. That ever since I started playing, I went back all the way to the beginning when I played Ultimatum. When I first played Ultimatum, that league was received rather well, except for the first few weeks. Then they had Expedition League, and nobody liked it. And then we had Scourge League, and a lot of people liked it. And we had Arch Nemesis, was eh. Then what was after that? Sentinel, big win. Then Calandra, which was obviously a huge win. Wait, I was eyeing Valor.
Best league ever.
Yeah, and after that was so that was universally received terribly. And then of course the next league was good, Sanctum. Everybody loved the Sanctum mechanic. I didn't think it was that great, but oh my god, if you liked that mechanic, it was good. And then there was Tota, which was a little bit of a mixed bag. I guess it was, or no, sorry, it was Crucible after that. And then it was Tota, which was better. And then we got this last league, which was a downer again. And now this league has to be good. I mean, just follow the law of, and I guess not the law of average. What do you call it? The law of consistencies or something? I don't know. Yeah. Anyone else can take it.
The lag. It's horrible. Okay.
I think Cat is muted, right?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I was muted indeed. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, UncleJay, I want to hear it from you. What did you think? What is your first takeaway from the trailer?
So the first takeaway from the trailer from me, I kind of guess it is going to be some kind of city building, because it does make sense that we are going to PoE2 very soon, right? So the league before, if they are showing something like that, I would probably think that they are going to be some kind of like pre-log or world building for PoE2, and that is what I kind of expect for the league when they release the teasers. And apparently it kind of is true, right? Also, I also completely agree with Snoo in terms of like 2 leagues in a row probably is not going to be 2 bad leagues in a row. And because if there's a bad league, right, like for example, the last league, they kind of spend a lot of time not fixing it, which means they also spend the resources into working on the next thing. And so it's going to be good. So that kind of makes sense in a way as well. And also, I think they are going to throw a lot of things back in this league, and apparently it also is correct, because I think either they are going to make this league crazy, or they are going to have like kind of a 1 month event league before they launch a PoE2 that is going to be everything back in the game, basically. So we will have something crazy before we actually start PoE2. I kind of expect they will do something like that. So
it would be nice. At this point, I don't know whether I can expect that, but yeah.
Crucible tree along with all the OP crafting, whatever we had in history, that will be awesome.
I don't know about any of the like future stuff or like how it ties in with PoE2. I'm not really a lore person, to be honest. Even after hearing it and seeing people in chat being like, Tri said this might be the Act 4 town, like the one we're building or something like that. Even with all that, I'm still like, I don't care. I'll play that when it gets here. I'm just excited to have a Garrison League. Like, that's when we first got the trailer announcement and people started saying Boat League. I've got like 50 different clips of me over the whole week saying, guys, it's Garrison League for sure. I hope it's Garrison League. It so much looks like a Garrison setup, and I want it to be. And then we got the actual announcement, and it was, and this is actually like one of my favorite mechanics. I know it's not for everyone. There's definitely going to be some people who are like, ew, town building. But for me, that's the most exciting thing. I want that. I want that very much. I very much like it. It's like meta progression over the entire league. To build it on one character, it exists on the next character. Like, I want that. Not to mention the trade house.
True. That is very big, in my opinion.
The trade house single-handedly destroys everything we know about the market.
Actually, I think it is not going to be that impactful personally, because they limit the stack size of the trade to 10, right?
I think they're gonna make that larger. They already said they were gonna experiment with it, and 10's never gonna be enough. I
also like it to be like at least like 100 or something like that.
I don't think they'll make it 100, but I think it'll go up to like 25 probably.
Because we buy
most
like
people 25 is enough.
Like scarabs and shit, probably at least a stack, so 20.
Yeah, it's an infinite amount of one item though. Like, it's not.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like, you can set one trade up and be like, I want to buy 1,000 of these scarabs, and that only takes the one slot. So I don't think that'll be a big deal. But I think it's going to screw with the market so badly that even the people who are going to struggle the most are the people who think they know the market and don't think it's going to change. If you pay attention and adapt quickly, you'll be able to benefit a lot from it. But if you think you know what's going to happen ahead of time and you don't double check, you might suffer.
Hold that thought for a moment, because I would love to talk about the auction house, but I first want to conclude the topic of first impressions of the trailer and expectations of the league, and I didn't get to talk on that. I personally at first was really worried about it, actually, because I thought this was going to be Micromanagement League 2.0, basically like Necropolis, but then more micromanagement. And I really, really don't like stuff that takes you out of the map and that requires you to, do all these things potentially. But then they already said that they dialed it back a lot from having too much micromanagement, where you could equip your rogue exiles and so on. And if you just look at it as a sort of, like you said, meta progression throughout the whole league, like your sentinel tree that you unlock and that you get into, then it seems actually like a very PoE kind of thing, because it's just, your meta progression for your rewards, but the direct engagement with the league happens on a map-to-map basis, and there's in-map encounters which feel like very PoE encounters, right? Like, you click a thing, monsters come out, you get reward currency that you can spend on your progression and work towards rewards eventually. And for me personally, I think last league was already a huge step into the right direction, only the league fell flat with me because I was so frustrated about the micromanagement, and some other things that I expect from a league were not in there. But in this league, we got all the components for a good league. Like, we got crafting, we got in-map stuff, we got new boss encounters. which I presume that those pirates and stuff will be like boss fights, right? And then on top of that, we got not only the sort of little quality of life changes that we got last league, but we got the big changes that we've all been looking forward to, as in we are getting the melee rework with the removal of the banner skills as they worked before and the removal of the ancestral totem stuff, melee totem stuff. So all baked into the gems and all hugely buffed. And then, of course, stuff like the auction house, which like even just a year ago, we would have never thought that that could be a thing in Path of Exile because they were so strictly against it.
3 weeks ago, I would have said no.
Yeah. Well, 3 weeks is a year ago, dude.
No, 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, I would have told you that would never happen.
Okay. Wait, yeah, so now we closed the bow. Now, Snoo, what do you think about the auction house?
The auction house. I agree with Valor, I think, about the wild market swings. I think that one thing that holds the market back from swinging really hard in Trade League is the fact that there are just all kinds of dead trades that are never going to happen. They just sit there on the auction house, or not the auction house. They sit there on the trade site and people aren't responding, and they could be price fixers, or they could just be people who are not interested in trading. And that will actually hold back shifts in the market, but it's going to be wild now because those trades are going to go through the moment they go through it. And then like as a trend begins to set, it will swing the pendulum very hard and very quickly in one direction, and it'll snap back over too. And yeah, there's gonna be some people get burned. I think it could be really interesting to be somebody who's plays the stock exchange game, like actually tries to play that. It could be fun. I'm not going to do that, but I can imagine some people would.
Something I think that's really interesting is I think it brings a lot of power out of bulk sellers, because it used to be, okay, I want 1,000 Essence of Woes, right? And so you don't want to do 250 trades, so you're scrolling down and paying more to find someone who'll sell you 300, 400, 500 at a time, so you only have to do like 2 or 3 trades total. Now it's not like that. I can buy 7 from him and 3 from her and 6 from that dude and 7 from there, and all of that can just happen at once on the market. So like the idea of, oh well, I've got 1,000 of them, so they're worth more, isn't really a thing.
I think it is going to be positive.
That's gonna lower that lowers the value of your bulk trader, but it also makes things like buying up all the individual ones that everybody who's selling like less than 10 and then bring them all together and selling them for double isn't going to happen. So that all that level of flipping doesn't exist. And then from the buyer's perspective, it's significantly better because you should get better prices. It's going to fix the backwards PoE economics thing we have here, where like bulk is actually more expensive than less expensive. Then for most sellers don't have the level of bulk that like say Snoo or I or any of us might acquire when we were doing a farm, right? They don't. You're not coming in with 500, 600, 700 of every essence. You're coming in with 20 or 30 of every essence after your few hours of farm. And that was never worth as much as when we did it. But now it is. Now if you do the same farm I do, but I do it for 9 hours or 10 hours and you do it for 1 hour, you will make 1/10 what I made. Whereas that isn't the case in the past. In the past, if I do it for 10 hours and you do it for 1 hour, I'll make 15 to 18 times the amount that you made because I've built up bulk and then it's worth more. And that won't happen anymore. For most things. Yeah. So that's cool. It's all going to be really different and an adjustment to get used to. Right?
Do you think there's not going to be any bulk trading anymore on like third-party websites outside of this auction house because it will be all covered by that?
I think there will still be.
Yeah, there'll still be off stuff.
Especially like gumball stuff, right? Mixed currencies that you can't easily sell via this auction house.
Because it depends, right? So there's a lot of people who actually likes to use a lot of stuff in one time, right? So it's not like we are buying 10, we craft, and then if we fail, we buy another 10. Some people just like to buy 1,000 at a time. So
well, that is true, and that used to be the case. But do you not think that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy? Because now that you have the ability to just hop on and buy 10 real quick, wouldn't you just buy 10, use 10, and then just buy another 10 if you need more?
If
because
it's
it's
me,
so quick.
But can you ask like Empyrean or someone like that? Every time he crafts something, it probably is going to take the thousands of something. And also another part of the market is you are talking about the stuff that is there's a lot on the market, like essences, right? But in case of like tailoring orbs and the lock, the mirror probably is going to be easier than before to actually flip the market because there's not a lot of stock for it. So people potentially can just buy everything out and just price fixed immediately. They don't even have to like just wait for all the trades to happen. They can just buy everything, assuming that they some way somehow get all the money that they need.
There's actually that brings me to an interesting point. There's something that happens a lot in like really high level crafting that probably doesn't directly affect most people, but might still be interesting. A lot of people hate TFT, right? Like there's a huge amount of generic hate for TFT. That's fine. I'm not going to comment on that, but there is also a large group of people who do crafting at a level similar to the TFT people and have a full list of all of their accounts and just refuse to trade them anything that would help the TFT craft anything. And if it's all on the auction house, you can't do that. So like there's a group of people that hold their mirror tier items at a substantially lower fee, intending to get it to as many people as possible and hating what TFT does where they like inflate all the prices to make a whole bunch of money. And there's like a second syndicate of people trying their best to make everything as available as possible, right? But if you put all the crafting stuff onto the auction house market, you can't really keep anything away from people. So it'll be just interesting to see. That doesn't really affect any normal players in any way, but it's really going to be a little interesting for me to see how that plays out this league as well. Like there's some interesting things happening.
Well, you made me imagine a world where maybe in the next iteration of the auction house there will be mirror servicing. You just go to the auction house for your mirror service. You just click the button and voila, you give your mirror and then the mirrored item's yours.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to be able to do mirrors through the auction house thing. Be like, I have this up for mirror service. It costs 20 divines. And you just go to the auction house, 20 divines in a mirror. There you go. And then that person who did the mirror gets the 20. And then...
We really are to a race to the bottom, though, in terms of like player interaction with one another when we do that. Though.
Yeah, I like the current way. It doesn't happen often enough to be in the auction house, in my opinion.
Did we want player interaction? Was that really a thing? Or is that just something GDG wanted?
This is player interaction. What are you talking about?
Well, you can have both. You can have the player interaction and you can have an interface for mirroring that makes it so that people can't possibly get scammed trying to mirror an item. It doesn't have to be on the auction house and it doesn't have to be possible without like being in the same zone as the player, right?
Well, I'm just wondering if there's one person who's ever played PoE who's thought that their favorite part of PoE that they really like is that they have to go to somebody else's hideout and physically trade them in person or like in person. Is that
I kind of like that for items. I don't mind like having an item.
Proud of their MTX and stuff. It would be that way for sure.
No, you're happy someone has to come to you to look at your stuff so you can show it off. Have you ever cared about going to somebody else?
Not just a hideout, but your character. You know,
if you're never been happy
certain kind of gear. If you're a walking, talking fireworks show, you know, maybe you go to somebody else's hideout and be like, "Look at me! I'm a walking, talking fireworks show." You know, see me explode your hideout with these spells and what? I mean, people do that to me all the time.
Yeah, I did that all the time.
Streaming, I guess, because they're gonna like blow up my hideout on stream or something, and then.
Hey, okay. Maybe it's just me that didn't like it. If other people think that's cool, then that's fine. I thought it was. I was like, oh, that's like the worst part. I'm super happy the less they make me do that. But hey, maybe other people like it, so that's fine.
I think some people do, yeah.
Anyway, overall, I think the auction house overall will be a improvement in experience for almost everyone. Because all the time you need something and then just grab it, right? So there's no doubt about that. But on the market side, I'm not sure entirely. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know about like the big softcore trade economy, but like smaller private leagues or even hardcore trade, I could totally see like some super powerful, economically powerful individuals like buying out the entire market for like low volume items like Hinekora's locks, for example, and just putting them up all at the price that they want to sell them, and then like pressing refresh all the time and buying up all the new ones. But in softcore trade, I don't know whether that will actually happen.
It
But yeah.
will. Basically, that
think
is
it
the
will,
new
yeah.
job for every single trader.
Mm-hmm.
They are still hideout warrior. They just do a different thing in hideout.
Except that they will have to play the game. They
Maybe
can't hide out warrior. They need gold.
Maybe they can power farm gold and then they can sit and hide out for like a month and then they have to power farm gold again for like a few days. I don't know. Maybe they
I
can
imagine all
host.
of you have experience with an auction house, either World of Warcraft or Diablo 3 vanilla or something. I mean, this sort of thing happened then as well.
Yeah.
And also one thing I'm unclear on, like, so in order to create a listing, you need to pay the gold to create the listing.
Yes.
But then if you buy out, you also need to pay the gold. So both the buyer and the seller need to pay the gold for the listing.
I think it's just the gold sync like in last epoch auction house. It worked the same, kind of the same. Right?
You could try and think about it as you're never the buyer.
Oh, you're always the seller because you always have to create a listing, even if you buy.
Because you have to create a listing, and the other person is always the seller, and there's no buyers basically. Or you could honestly, you could look at it the other way and say I'm always the buyer and they're always the buyer, but like it's not like a buy sell thing. It's a trade house, not an auction house, which is like sounds pedantic, but like we don't have like a main currency, right? So like there's always going to be get a intangible crafting currency or thing in exchange for my tangible crafting currency or thing. So it's not like other games where you're like, this much gold, I'll sell for this much gold and buy that much gold. It's like it's all. So it costs people on both ends, and it makes sense to do so.
Yeah, I think some people are imagining the gold sync maybe would be an issue for like actual flippers and stuff, but I have a feeling for regular players, like if you play the game at all, we probably have so much gold it's just coming out our ears. It will, and I do think it's actually a good mechanic because it will at the very least prevent the just all in hideout warrior trade extraordinaire marketer from just going absolute ham on the auction house. At least they're going to have to do something in the game, and the fact that that's enforced, I think it's a good thing. But I think for the vast majority of players, this whole gold thing, we're not even going to be talking about gold 1 week into the league.
I
from that point forward,
it won't matter. I hope. I believe that's what they said too, is that they want it to really matter early game. Like day 1 and day 2, it should matter. We should be worrying about, oh, where am I going to spend my gold? And by the time we've all been playing a week, we shouldn't care anymore. Which, if they nail that, like that was the plan. The only question is whether or not they nail it. And if they do nail that, that's great, I think. That's what I want it to be. Slightly annoying to begin with, pay attention, and then doesn't matter.
Right, and it gives them a good way, like a good screw where they can adjust it in case it does get abused by people. So they can make it so that, you know, people have less access to gold, or they can, like we said, change the amount of items you can list at a time, change the amount of total listings that you can have up. So, I mean, it's probably not the final implementation. There's probably going to be some things where they're like, oh, we should have done that this way, and then they're going to adjust it. Whether that
because I
is
remember
during the
also,
league.
I think I remember they said that this is like a league function, is not in the core game yet. If it works, they will keep it. If it doesn't work, they will remove it. So there's going to be a lot of changes anyway.
Right.
Yeah, this is really GGG at its finest. Just throwing everything on the wall, seeing what sticks, and a lot of things stuck last time that they're bringing back, and may not stick this time. It's fine. It's whatever. I think they're. Yeah, I think kind of harkening back to what we said earlier, I think they're just kind of going ham on this. Or UncleJay said this, that this is just sort of the final hurrah before PoE 2. Let's just throw the kitchen sink at the players, see what happens. Let's go crazy.
Yeah.
I
celebrating.
mean, that perception is out there, but they've addressed that, and they've said, like, I mean, there's going to be future leagues for PoE1, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Look,
Not
But it's still-
honestly, not for most players. Honestly, I don't think. Do you
I
guys
think
really
it
think that
will.
people are going to rotate PoE1, PoE2, or
Yes.
just,
yeah.
People
Really?
already rotate games in
100%.
between PoE1 leagues,
Yeah.
so why wouldn't they do so between
How
PoE2?
long are the PoE2 leagues going to last? It's not like it's
how
gonna be
long
like
do you think? How long do you think average players play even good PoE leagues? It's
No, I
almost never
mean
more
like,
than a month.
I mean the space between leagues. PoE2 leagues might be enjoyable enough to play through most of their duration until the following league, especially in the
No.
first year of the
Where-
game, I would think.
we're exceptions.
No way. No,
We're,
no, no
we're
way.
degenerate exceptions. who
I would
can
say
play the same
people who
game
play
for
more
3
than one
months straight.
ARPG game are exceptions. Not us.
People rotate way more than you think. I think people rotate way more than you think. I think a lot of people play 2 weeks to a month of PoE, and then they move on to other games.
Yeah, I think I disagree with you. I just disagree.
In this podcast, there are 4 people. How many of you actually play a different ARPG? I know I
All of
do.
them. All of them.
I
It took
can't
me
say
a
I
long
don't.
time to do. To be honest with you guys, it took me a long time to do. I do play Last Epoch now, but for the vast majority of my ARPG career, so to speak, I did not. I only played one. It was Diablo 2, then it was Diablo 3, then it was PoE, then it was Diablo 4 with a little bit of PoE, and then Last Epoch with a little bit of PoE, and that's it.
But I mean, to be fair, mainly if I am burnt out of PoE, that is when I play other games.
Yeah.
So I have my priority, but it's not that I only play one game. If I have time, I will play others.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. We're speculating, but we all agree that we are the exception here.
Yeah,
We're
true.
exceptions in different ways. Like I'm different than you guys, evidently, in this respect. But I'm just trying to imagine, the typical person out there playing the game.
Yeah.
I don't see. I see them playing. They've been playing PoE1 the whole time. They're going to play the new game. They're going to play PoE2. They probably love it, and they got real life stuff. They got other hobbies. They got other things. They're not going to be. It's going to be PoE2 season done. And when's the next PoE2 season? I got to do my,
But
lawyer
isn't it
finance
just
gig or whatever.
more new PoE seasons? Isn't it like, wouldn't you play another PoE season if a PoE season came out between 2 PoE seasons? See, like,
Yeah.
because it's
That's
not
why
a different game, right? They're 2 PoE
Yeah,
games.
That's exactly
So
why I
you're playing-
asked. Like, I wonder how much space is between each league. If it's like, if a league is like 4 full months still, and then it's like 2 months of one, 2 months of the other. But if it's only like 2 or
that's my
3
hope.
months,
My hope is
I
that
don't
they
think
actually
they're
just
gonna do it.
extend both to 4 months and make it like
Yeah, if it's
give you
like
more
that, then
development time
there's
on
a
them and they make
greater
it
chance that you would be right for sure.
two. That's what
For
I'm
sure. But
That's what
how long have
imagine a
they-
world where they're only like 2 months apart? I mean, that's not going to be.
How long have they tried to go back to 3 months leagues now?
They've
They
said they
tried
want to do a
hard.
few times and they don't make it. I
I
hope
think
it just goes 4.
personally, yeah, I think they will move to 4 because 4 kind of makes more sense if you run 2 games at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And also, more time means they can polish the league better, whatever the content. So it's just better for us and also for them. So probably they will switch back to 4 months.
Yeah.
Here's the big thing though. At least I don't know if I want to speak for Capmaster, but I'm gonna, and he can correct me if I'm wrong. After having been to LA and done the whole spend 8 hours playing PoE2,
8 hours, I wish.
I don't know.
It was 5.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to play any ARPG except PoE2 when PoE2 comes out. So maybe Snoo's right.
Oh,
Like, it's so much
to
better
this
than
guy.
everything else I've played. So maybe I've changed my mind. Maybe Snoo's
Yes.
right. I don't know.
Well, like the
Better watch out. I'm going to have you saying Calandra's a good league before you know it.
I don't know about that.
How many buttons do you have in a PoE2 character that you played?
We only had access to the first 2 acts, and Catmaster and I both shit, so we only had access to the first act. So we
Well,
didn't have
that was
many
largely
buttons.
because someone decided to play for a full hour and then start over
All
again.
right. I mean, you're not wrong, but still.
Or the save game restart player.
I think it's just because it's a new
I
game,
am
so we
too.
are kind of excited for it more. But when you play it
Yeah.
for like 2 years, 3 years, you will be burned out of something.
I give you that. On Leaguestart of the first PoE2 league, I might play the full 4 months simply
Yeah,
because
sure.
I want to be not shit at PoE2, and there's a lot of new bosses to learn. There's a lot of new abilities, new mechanics, new all kinds of stuff that I need to learn. But that doesn't mean that once a PoE1 league comes out, I'm not going to play that for at least like 1 week as if that was a special PoE event. Because it's like still PoE1 is still a game that I love and I have played for 10 years. And when there's a new league with like new exciting stuff coming out, obviously I'm going to hop back into PoE1. And if it's just for, like I said, like a Leaguestart weekend at the very least, right?
Like
And
2
then I go
games
back
per
to
week.
PoE2.
You know,
Yes,
a
yes.
huge part of me thinks there's just no way that people are gonna stick around like playing PoE1. But then I remember once PoE2 comes out, because you know you just try to imagine, how many resources, how much
People
time
still
and
play
energy is
Diablo,
poured into this
dude.
updated game. Right. Let me finish my point here. That's what I'm saying. I have the tendency to think that way. Then I recall, like, I myself still play Age of Empires 2. There's an Age of Empires 3 and 4 game. 4 is extremely well polished, had super amount of hype as a Microsoft game, is known to be an excellently well made, but everybody kind of stopped and was like, actually, you know what? The old games are better. And everyone went back to the old games. And there's just something about sometimes a game just clicks so well that the pacing of it,
Nostalgia.
everything about it is just, I don't even think it's nostalgia. I think it's just at a certain point when you hit that genie in a bottle, or lightning in a bottle, as it said, the lightning in a bottle moment, when you make a game, just everything clicks right for players and they just can't escape it. Like it's almost like a terrible thing for a game studio. They can't even make another version of a game better than the one they made previously. I mean, this happened to Blizzard with Diablo, and it's happened with Age of Empires development teams, I suppose. And I hope this doesn't happen with GGG, but we live in a world where people do get absolutely unsatisfied with follow-up versions of games, and I am a little concerned that could happen.
I was as well, but then I played it, and I think it's a
Yeah.
pretty good game, and it's not even done.
Good to hear.
I was worried until I went there and played for several hours, and now I'm not worried. I get it. I get everyone that's worried. I was also worried. There was a lot of negativity in my brain until I went there, and now I'm fine with it. Now I'm on board. So, what was I say? When everyone plays it, you'll see.
So
Right.
That does give some confidence. That's good.
But back to settlers real quick. What's everyone league starting? I need to know.
I didn't
You
decide.
don't know. It's tomorrow.
I have like five plans, and then I still cannot decide which one. But probably I will go for something Slam Juggernaut, not Chieftain, but Juggernaut.
Yep.
Ignite, just to try something new. So the Tectonic Slam of Cataclysm have very heavy scaling with endurance charges, and so it does consume all the charges. So it means I need to spend some time wait for it to recharge. So Ignite kind of makes sense with it. Basically, that is the rough idea. And also it plays into the plan of me playing the second character, which is going to be my main build of the league, which is going to be the Cast When Stunned. And also thanks to you, Baller, I adapted the setup for the Popcorn Spectre, which comes back this league, into the AFK build. And so just basically I have much better clear, and also single target I can take care of with the body swap of Sacrifice. So I tried a test run for Simulacrum AFK in Standard, and yeah, when I got everything set up, I would just sit in the Simulacrum for the whole day again. I did that last league, this league, and I will do it in the coming league as well. So I will just be basically pressing no button and doing nothing but loot. That is my dream.
That's some of my favorite builds, those kind of builds. Press nothing, everything dies. Fantastic.
Yeah, go ahead, Bella.
So I put out like two guides, and I was tempted to try between both of them, which are exactly what you would expect: Poison SRS and Poison Holy Relic, because Minions Leaguestart is like my jam, and those are the two best minion builds I think in existence. But with the return of Dark Marionettes and being able to make the Dave build for the Exploding Spectres, I thought I want to do that as quick as possible. And so originally I was like, okay, well I'll start.
Please
I was like,
don't.
no, I am. So I was going to do Holy Relic.
Surprise.
Yeah, I was going to do Holy Relic and then respec into it, because I think Holy Relic is the strongest minion build. But then I thought, I've never played Popcorn SRS. Even though it's a little bit worse than the other two minion builds, it's still pretty good, right? It's still okay. And I thought, just like as a story for my character thematically, it makes more sense if I start Popcorn SRS and then move from Exploding SRS into Exploding Spectres. That just like thematically makes more sense. So I'm going to be league starting a version of SRS I've never played, do the explode thing, just so that it makes more thematic sense when I change into marionettes as quick as possible, which I'm imagining will be around day 3, because there's like, you need a bunch of the corpses. We don't know how rare they are. You need a helmet that comes from tier 17s. Like, I want a Spectre chest from Delve. Like, it's not really league startable. So Popcorn SRS into that. That's my plan.
Do we know anything about the Dark Marionettes, how they come back? Are they like as strong as they used to be? Do you think they're really exactly like they were?
Yep. At least as far as we can tell, unless they change their health value, because we don't have data mining.
Yeah, that's true.
The guy from PoEDB is like on holiday and not back till like 5 or 6 days into the league, so we're not going to have data mining.
No way, dude. I thought we're gonna have that because we're gonna get the GGPK now.
No data mining. Unless someone new does it, there will be no data mining.
Oh,
but
no. That's terrible. Well, yeah. I'm gonna go quickly and then I let Snoo go, because I don't have any details about the build that I want to play. I just know that I'm probably gonna play that because there's so many options and I'm so undecided, but I'd already wanted to play that skill in the past and then I haven't gone through with it. And the skill is Glacial Hammer. And now this time it's really buffed. And I heard a lot of people talk about how last week, I don't know who did it. Was it Ventura or Waggle or Garatha? One of these 5-head build maker streamers who made like a really good Glacial Hammer build. And I'm obviously going to copy some of that, but I also don't need to copy all of it because it's insanely buffed this league. So I'm actually going to go for it. Probably not on Warden though, because I think Glacial Hammer hits too slowly to be able to build up those 50 stacks for the what was it called? Hoarfrost or something like that. But yeah, anyway, Glacial Hammer is something. Snoo, what are you going?
Yeah. Well, I am absolutely not on the fence. I know that. I can't imagine that feeling of not knowing what you're going to play early on. It's never that way for me, but I'm more rock solid on my Leaguestart than ever. I've gotten in the habit of like Leaguestart testing like 4 weeks prior to the previous leagues, and that's kind of how I extend my own, if it's a garbage league especially, I'll just start doing Leaguestart testing. I made 5 separate builds like 4 weeks ago that were all functional, like a couple of cast on crit stuff, detonate dead stuff. It's really interesting builds. One of them stood out above the others. It was a freeze variant of an elemental hit Deadeye. And I actually managed to figure out how to make freeze a viable defensive layer. And it was not easy because you have to use a lot of tools like Pain Seeker gloves and stuff that triple the ailment threshold of your hits. And then you can't get freeze through crit, and it's all kinds of ramifications. So kind of jumping through a lot of hoops to make that work. But it was amazing how much survivability I had on a glass cannon in a T17 map when I did a test run on it. And I decided, you know what, so much good positive feedback on it. I was like, all right, well, I'll just make a build for that. And then by some act of God, GGG introduced a new ascendancy that makes it so all of my effort to jump through hoops to get freeze is just like gifted to me on a silver platter. with the new Ascendancy Notable Oath of Winter, and then like I'm already going like all in with elemental ailments and stuff, and then we got the other ailment, it's basically a powerhouse elemental ailment Ascendancy now, and it was just like it's almost like the universe unfolded before me kind of thing. And so I retrofitted that build into the Warden and made it, I think, actually new player friendly for the first time ever. I made it like 5 linked gear and not even fully leveled gems and a lot of unique pieces, but they're virtually all very cheap and tier 2, tier 4, tier 5 kind of pieces.
Nice.
And, I would actually like to have a conversation at some point on this podcast. I think an interesting debate should be had in the PoE community about what constitutes Leaguestart viable items. I feel like people fixate awfully hard on rare pieces of gear, like random half-crafted rares. I'm of the opinion that unique gear is actually the best type of gear to Leaguestart, especially for new players, because they don't have to worry about crafting anything if it's very common. But it's obvious to me that, especially with some of the negative feedback I do get, anytime I make a guide, it's too unique heavy, too many uniques. And they go on like PoE Ninja, and I understand a build creator makes a guide, but I mean, there are certain uniques that are so damn common, it doesn't matter. Unless like Zizaran and Steel Mage make the same guide on it or something, like, it can't possibly go up in price because it's that common of a unique piece of gear. And not that every single unique I choose is that common, but I personally think that it's just a lot easier for anyone, especially new player, to just get the item off trade. You don't have to worry about crafting anything. You don't have to deal with the affix order, the priority of affixes. Well, I got a 5 modded crafted item. Should I recraft another one to get a 6 good modifiers? Is tier 3 good enough for this? You don't have to worry about any of that. And I have very strong feelings about that. And I haven't heard many people voice opinions. I would like to hear you guys' opinions on it, though. But in conclusion, Elemental Hit of the Spectrum Warden is my League starter. I can't wait to play it. And I've made a formal build guide on it with more blood, sweat, and tears went into that creation of that guide than any in the history. So
is it bows or wand? I haven't looked. You're doing bows, right?
Bows.
Yes. In some alternate universe somewhere, I'm playing like Frostblades Warden because I've kind of wanted to play Frostblades again, but I can't do that when I make a guide and prepare so much for a version of a bow build, and then they just give an ascendancy that like supercharged it out of thin air. So I can't not do it. So, you know what?
I kind of want to talk first here. Is that okay?
Go.
Okay. Yeah.
Go for it.
I completely agree with the statement that unique is better for League starting build or like newbie friendly builds. The fact that most of my builds, if I created myself, it probably have like half of the items are uniques because it's just straightforward, right? You tell a person, you look for this name of the item, you get it. Crafting is the most like the hardest thing to understand in the game. And so I often, if I want to make my build like new player friendly, I probably just get rare as life resistant, maybe suppress. That is it. I don't really want to make them jump through like crafting guide, kind of try this, find that. I think uniques is just better. Just avoid tier 0 and tier 1 if it is for like a new player friendly. And the rest of it, I think the worst case scenario, a 1C item can get to like 5 or 10C. So that is not a problem. Just run Blood Aqueduct or whatever, get the Chaos Recipe, you will buy it. So I think it's just straight better. Unique item is just straight better. And also they're more interesting because they have unique stuff, right? Personally.
Other than trying to stay away from anything that's a tier 2 unique or higher.
Yeah.
I'll agree. Anything that's like tier 3 or lower is so common that even if it becomes a meta build, its price can't spike out of the achievable range for most people. As soon as you start dealing with like even tier 2 uniques, which are generally still pretty cheap because they're common enough, but if you've got a build guide that 150,000 people watch, that tier 2 unique can suddenly become, oh, this is now worth like 5 div instead because enough people are trying to play it. As long as we're keeping to the more common ones, I'm on board too.
What's
Uniques are
a
lot
what's a
easier
good
to deal with.
example for like a commonly used tier 2 uniques in build? Like I don't know, the Restless Defiance, or like I mean it's not
No, that's
commonly
tier
used,
3.
but like what's it?
Hiri's Ire would be a common example of an item you
Okay.
can't put in a build guide at an early league start because it's
Is
too.
the cool
It's
Iron Point tier 2 as well?
yeah. It's an item that is used by too many players, that is too powerful, and it's just a little bit too rare. That if you try to put it in a
tier
build
2.
guide, you're gonna cause problems.
Whereas if it was tier 3, even as popular as it is now, it'd be a 10C chest on day 2, and that'd be fine. But it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Maximum.
It's not.
That's why,
So-
like, Lightning Coil is tier 3, right? But like, it's crazy
It is.
powerful for what it is. So it's never expensive, even though like so many build creators put it on part of the build guide.
Cloak of Flame.
Cloak of Flame is also tier 3, yeah, and
Very,
therefore
very,
can be,
very meta item in like Affliction.
and therefore
And
can be
it
purchased
never get more than 10 chaos.
Yeah.
For a no,
unless you corrupt it well.
Like tier 3 is like the turning point. If something becomes tier 3, you can put it in every guide in existence. No one will care. As soon as it's tier 2, you can have an off-meta build with it in the guide, but it's not popular. Tier 2 is still cheap. But if it becomes popular, tier 2 is rare enough to be like, oh, well, that's out of the price range now.
I have an item that I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. So I put Kintsugi in my chest. That it's very off meta now, but it's a tier 2 chest. But it's so off meta that, and I'm see, part of this conversation has to be included in this conversation is, if you're a build creator, how popular is your build and how popular are you as a creator? I feel like I get the sense, I'm trying to look at this like wholeheartedly, that part of how this trend happened, where everybody, like all build creators, all well-known build creators, steered away from uniques, is once they reach a certain level of popularity, they feel they can no longer put uniques in their league starter because it creates a problem with the market, the Mathel effect or whatever. You know what I mean? Like completely non-meta stuff. So he would be an example of somebody who can create a new build with completely common, fairly common uniques that nobody ever uses, and suddenly, bam, they're like extremely expensive. If nothing else, like some asshole will go on to trade and just like buy them all, right, and then flip them. Like even that, if nothing else, that happens, right? And so I feel like it's just kind of an unfortunate incident where the most popular builds are created by the most popular people, and the most popular people have so much leverage and pull on the unique market that it has driven the majority of builds created away from uniques. But for people who are maybe a little smaller, maybe like UncleJay or even myself, we can very easily get away with making the league start process fun and enjoyable for new players by just simplifying it. It homogenizes the build. It simplifies everything. You don't have to buy, you can even buy the unique item with the right links, colors, and everything, usually, easily. And it just works. But you know, if I was 10 times bigger than I am as a content creator, the current build that I put out would be problematic, probably. And that's just so fascinating to me how that works. It's like, where do you hit that threshold where it's just everything gets ruined?
I do wonder how that's going to keep working as I keep growing, because I've already noticed the last like 2 or 3 leagues.
Yeah,
I can screw up the market on things.
Yeah, look what you did at Poison SRS, right?
Yeah, which is a weird power to have. Like, it's weird. It's so fucking odd, man, to just be able to be like, hey, this thing's really good, and then you wake up the next day and the thing you bought for 40 chaos is 10 div, and you're like, well, shit. But now I have to like, I'm already at the bit where I have to like think, is this going to be worth the price that it will be worth if I make a video on it? Or is it something I should just use and not bother to tell people, because it's
like the budget dendrobate,
and it might have been worth 60 chaos, but if I make a video on it, it'll be 10 div tomorrow and everyone will complain about it. Like, I don't know how you deal with that when you go from like the size I am now, which is still relatively small, to like, you're someone like Ziz. Like, what the fuck happens there?
I bet
like,
it's a terrible feeling. It feels like you're being shackled, like your creativity is just being shackled down, like you're in purgatory, build creator purgatory or something. Can't even make a cool build.
I do have a example of me myself when I was like 200 subscribers only. So I have a video on the AFK Juggernaut, and it got somewhat popular. I see a jewel, forbidden jewels for the Chieftain explosion on the market. Both of them, I got both of them for 1 divine total. The next day, it is 150 divine for the blue ones, 200 for the red ones.
Yep.
Just the next day, and when I make the build guide, there is like hundreds of them on the market because nobody is using the Chieftain explosion, the jewel for any other build, right? So just the next day,
even the smallest content creator can completely
just one
wreck
random
the market on those jewels.
Yeah, exactly. Just one random thing, and it kind of shocked me, right? So that from the next time, I actually faced the problem that you think that. So I really want to include these jewels because I think it is very cheap. But when I make a video about it, there will be like hundreds of people complain that.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Not budget.
This
is 100 divine on the market. Screw you. Why the hell are you bringing it up? Things like that.
And so like I can't even like Forbidden Flame Flesh jewels are completely off the table for me. Like I'm big enough as a content creator. If I even dared make a build guide with one of those jewels, the backlash would be insurmountable. So I can't do it. Now I can imagine if I was like brand new content creator again, the first build I ever made, maybe get away with that. I could maybe get away with like 100 subscribers or something, but no way in hell I could do that again. And so, it scales down, right? Like it just, you give an example of Forbidden Flame Flesh jewels. They're like the most extreme example of something of that happening. And over here, I was talking about things that are more relative to me where I'm now, like tier 2 uniques, tier 3 uniques or something. But there is a threshold for everybody, regardless of how big or small you are. We all have to think about that in some sense.
The crazy one is also my timeless jewels. So like I went and picked a Kadiro timeless jewel that was specifically middle of the pack, like an average one. It was okay. It had 2 good nodes.
Yeah,
that was it. I specifically went and picked a middle of the road one, and then went out of my way in the video to say, hey, I specifically picked a mid-tier one. It can go in this socket, or this socket. Do not buy the one I bought. I bought this for 30 chaos. It was worth up to 2 divines. Don't pay more than that. Go look for your own. There are tons. I showed people on the web. I brought the website up. I was like, here is 138 different seeds that just work for this slot and how to use it. There's 2 other slots for you. So there's something in the vicinity of 500 seeds you could use. And 2 days later, my seed of a timeless jewel was worth 220 divines. And I was like, why?
I'm rich.
So the most sensible response to that is, okay, so you make a build guide, you put a timeless jewel in. There's probably a reason for that, like maybe this specific keystone, or maybe it's just as the lethal pride, you're gonna get double damage somewhere or something. And so you put it in and you deliberately delete the seed in the POB. So it does not count for a seed. But the problem with that is now you're not representing, you're not showcasing. It's like less information, right? So you want to give more information to the viewer to say, hey, this is that middle of the road seed that's good. And they can kind of get a sense of it because they can scroll over the notables and they can see, oh, there's some double damage there. There's some, fizz is extra fire here, some nice things about it, right? And it's just unfortunate because there will be a certain segment of the community which will say, oh, I need seed 5, 7, 34, 5, 9. And they're going to go search it on trade. And it's like, oh, it's 400 divines. What the hell, Balor Mage? Why you made this build? That's not cool, dude, to do that. And so you have to somehow square that circle. It's really,
I think the problem is people don't really watch the whole video. They just watch a few minutes, and then they click on the POB and they just copy it. So they never get to the actual part of us explaining that, hey, here's the process of finding a good jewel. You can find a better one than mine. They don't listen to that because they didn't get to that part yet. So
just pull the thing and be like, copy exactly what was done.
Yep.
Oh, I can't afford this. This jewel's worth 7 times the entire build, head to toe. It wasn't. It was 30 chaos when I bought it.
But I think specifically with timeless jewels, like that's just a risk that is out there because there's just so many different seeds that, like, of any given seed, there's just not a huge volume on the market. So
it's like one of the best things about the game, right? Those, I think we would all agree.
Oh, yeah, I love them.
Terrific.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty cool.
I like it.
It's not like we're gonna say, "Oh, I wish they never existed," because
Nah, I love
creates
them.
this problem for us.
No, but some are better than others. Like I don't know, when I
yeah.
played the charge stacking winter orb thing that was mostly popularized by MB Extreme. Like there was one specific seed that works really well, and there's like 2 or 3 more that also work as well. But you need to have like a very or like a subset out of very specific notables in the middle on the 2 Scion sockets. And if you don't get them, then yeah. So there wasn't that many different, and I did a lot of testing. Like I did like 2-3 hours trying to find a cheap alternative to the one that MB Extreme specifically used in his guide, and it just didn't seem worth the time. Like maybe with other slots and with other applications, it's easier, but yeah, I didn't think it was great there. But just to answer the question generally, again, I think uniques are great. I'd also like if a build doesn't have too many required slots in general. Like if it was not 8 required uniques or something, but 2 or 3 required uniques, and then you can just throw on whatever and the build works, right? Or maybe like some required rare stats, like some incursion item or something. But I mean, the fewer requirements, the better. That's how I classify Leaguestart as, obviously. I wanted to talk a little bit about the ascendancies. We haven't gone about over everything in the Warden, for example. Is there? I would like to hear from you guys. I mean, unless you wanted to still say something on that topic.
Nah, let's just get on. I think there's a lot to talk.
We're good.
Well,
Oh, Warden, yes. My new girlfriend.
what makes you go yes about the Warden specifically? Are you a tincture appreciator? Are you happy about the return of the bark skin? Or what is it that makes you will?
In writing the guide I did, I had to become intimately familiar with my own build, and I had a wonderful experience writing the scripts for this, building up the sales point of what makes ascendancy so good on the ailment side. And for anyone out there familiar with the Elementalist, boy, she needs a rework now because she's got nothing on this. She's got nothing on this. You get 2-second freezes if you hit the freeze threshold. You get 2-second freezes, and then if you don't meet the threshold, you get a stacking debuff that's gonna give it to you anyway in a short period of time. And there's no internal cooldown on both of those functions. The Hoarfrost function. That's going to get changed. 100% chance that's going to. I think that might actually get changed mid-league. The fact there's no internal cooldown on Hoarfrost. So the Hoarfrost stacks drop if you freeze. Bro, you got 2 full seconds to stack up another 20 Hoarfrost stacks to freeze again.
I assumed that they wouldn't stack until the freeze ended.
That could be.
I still expect it to be very fast. I'm just saying I don't expect it to.
That will actually put my build in a much higher position relative to some of the competition out there, if that is the case, because I can actually freeze in 1 hit on mine. So the Hoarfrost is almost a wasted mechanic for my build. But yeah, and then you got the Scorch one, the double Scorch.
That's strong.
Really fascinating for bow builds or elemental hit builds, because the meta now is that we switch the elemental res on the mastery, right? And so you can never scale minus monster resistance because of that mastery. A quarter of the time the elemental resistance is flipped, so it just kind of does a little thing for you, and then you can scale your build in different ways. But now I'm looking at like, okay, I could get frostbite on my build, I could get elemental weakness on my build, I can lower the resistances in all kinds of different ways, because now this is the way I'm scaling it. They're going to grant me negative 60 monster res. I'm scaling it this way now.
Just double Scorch and Ellie weak. Just that on its own it's quite a lot.
Yeah. And you can take it even further. So it opens up all kinds of new build creation opportunity angles there. And then there's the shock mechanic, which is the other one, which is fascinating too, because it reduces the number of, or it reduces the threshold necessary to shock, but then you got 50 stacks and it doubles the effectiveness in total. If there's some way you can keep a 2-second debuff up 50 stacks, if you can do that. So what I really find interesting about this is, and I said this in my guide, that the one of these ascendancy notables means you need to attack very, very, very quickly. One of them means you need to attack very, very hard in one hit. And then the
Mhm.
freeze one is in between, somewhere in between, where it's like has a component of both of those. So it's really fascinating. You want a fast attacking but hard hitting build at the same time, or else you could just not take every single one of these ascendancy and just prioritize one angle. But then there's a fourth ascendancy where you get the Unbound, which is a crazy damage multiplier that brings it all together. So I find it really, really fascinating how this. And like I said earlier, my build that I was making magically did all of these things already. I barely had to change anything to fit it into this rubric, if you will. It's just so I'm absolutely in love with it.
And I have like one small warning for Warden. I don't know if this applies to your build because I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot of Warden builds right now that are squishy as shit because Warden doesn't add any tank. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just that a lot of people seem to be used to getting a lot of their defenses from the ascendancy and then have just forgot to get it elsewhere on their builds and guides and things that have been linked to me. I'm just a quick warning that like it's not bringing you a much tankiness, if any. Just beware. It's still good. It's great. It's fantastic. Make sure you've gotten some defense elsewhere. Doesn't matter how much damage you do if you die in one shot.
I do have some defenses in my build, but when I try to imagine what that freeze notable is going to actually play like in maps, knowing what I already know about how hard I worked to get it to work on a Deadeye fairly well, we're talking about freezes that actually freeze rare enemies in tier 17 maps. So
Yeah,
you have to
that's
work
cool.
really hard to do that. Like you have to sacrifice a lot to do that. And now with this thing being what it is, I mean, I just imagine a scenario where, you know, if you have screen wide clear, then you got screen wide freeze. If you're not already killing, you're freezing everything. And occasionally you'll run into a monster that will be literally like chill and freeze resistant or crit resistant or something immune to elemental ailments or some bogus thing like that. And then you'll have to deal with that mob. So you need some defense. But oh my God, like everything else is just gonna almost be not gonna matter, I feel.
Or you can just run away.
Sorry, what?
Or you can just run away.
Run away.
Well,
yes, but if it's freeze resistant, it's probably chill resistant too, and it's kind of
Yeah,
it might
true.
actually be fast mob as well. So you're right to an extent.
Bear trap it in place and run away. Are you picking Barkskin at all? Probably not, right? Like, I was gonna say Barkskin, if you go 4 points deep on it, it doesn't sound terrible, getting 2% of suppressed spell damage per bark below maximum prevented,
It's only
like going
10%
from 50
reservation
to
now,
70.
is that right?
Yeah.
It is 10%.
Now that does raise my eyebrows. It's only 10% reservation because you could imagine like you have a build and it's like, all right, I don't have enough reservation to fit in another Herald or something, but I could fit in Dread Banner. Oh wait, now I can't. All right,
But
well, what am I gonna do?
It's not
But it's
10%
not
reservation.
great.
It's 2 ascendancy points.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Guardian gets three
Yes,
50% auras that don't cost mana because it's the ascendancy point. It doesn't make sense that it has a mana reservation. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it should have a mana reservation.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, in that context, that's a good point.
The entry cost is ascendancy points. Those are huge.
Or it would need to be way more powerful.
Yeah,
But yes,
it's
some
like
people, they
I
say
couldn't
it's
find
really
the
strong.
info anymore after I seen it once, but it's only like a 30 flat physical damage reduction against attack hits, right?
I think it's like insane for leveling, but then in the end game it's useless. That is
Yeah, it
pretty
falls
much
off really hard.
Right.
It's definitely a
Probably.
good normal lap ascendancy if you want some defenses.
Basically, it's some sort of like pseudo armor replacement mechanic, like just to give you flat physical reduction if you have no armor. It's going to make you feel like you're an armor class because when you get swarmed by a bunch of little monsters, now they won't kill you immediately if you're on like a squishy bow build. But yeah, if you're getting, if you're a squishy bow build, why are you getting swarmed by a bunch of little monsters? That's not a thing, on that kind of archetype. So, but this was maybe much better for some sort of melee setup. What do you guys think about melee builds for the Warden? Because Lightning Strike is all the buzz right now. And I mean, have you guys seen anything about that?
I haven't looked at it. I've seen people mention it. Sorry, go ahead, UncleJay.
So I think it kind of is somewhat hard to do lightning strike on a Warden as a Leaguestart. In the end, I think it's going to be good, but as a Leaguestart, I think it does have some problems for lightning strike. To be specific, for example, projectiles, extra brush, and you kind of have to deal with that. And I don't think it's ideal for just starting with lightning strike. I kind of have one idea to do like volcanic fissure snaking with this one, so it is a slam, right? This class doesn't really have attack speed, and so kind of a slow attack actually does make sense, though it means I lose out on the shock, and it seems like the one of the strongest thing here, and if I don't do it, then it just doesn't really fit. So melee for this one, I really don't have like a good idea of what can be a good skill for it, because of the attack speed and the speed overall as well. You just have damage, and that's it, right?
There might be something crazy with the tinctures. I mean, I'm not interested in them because Ballard said it was 2 whole ascendancy points by Barksian. Imagine paying 2 whole ascendancies just to unlock tinctures, which is what is the case for row builds here. I mean, that just sounds like a terrible payoff.
You also get a micro distillery belt. I think that has some uses.
Leaguestart?
Not on Leaguestart. I just mean in general.
I'm sorry, sir. Were you suggesting that I not wear Headhunter or Mage Blood?
Okay, well.
So,
come on.
Good point. Or the Tide. I think.
Oh, you're talking about Leaguestart. Oh, okay. All right.
I think they rebalanced the tinctures as well. It's not the same as before. So so I'm not sure what they will be. So I'm not touching tinctures at all before I know exactly what they do. All of them. So.
I'm gonna make a big call right now. It might come back to bite me in the ass. It seems like at least half of the people playing are starting melee builds this league. That's my experience from my chat and what I see posted around everywhere. Like, everyone's playing melee builds. Here's what I think happens. 3 to 5 days into the league, mass rerolls. When everybody realizes that it doesn't matter how many zeros you add at the end of the DPS, you're still coming to a gunfight with a stick. There's nothing you could ever do to save melee. I still don't want to play it. You still have to be melee. They've balanced it as well as they can. I think they did a great job. I don't think melee is savable. You have to be in melee, and that's already
preaching to the choir. Preaching to the choir.
It's nothing against GG. I think they've done a great job of balance this time. Like, if you're a melee enjoyer who already likes melee, you were already playing it when it was shit this league and beforehand, you're going to be in love here. It's definitely much better. They've done a great job. You're still bringing a stick to a gunfight. I'm not going to enjoy it.
Except the stick now enables Val Pact.
Yeah, which they might be because you get hit because you got to walk up to things.
People who don't know what they don't know will love this league and the melee thing. They're going to feel the buffs. Like you said, people already love playing melee. They're going to feel the buffs. They're not going to watch what other people are doing. But my God, when you're right, when people roll these melee builds and they can see their character in action and they feel good about it, and then they turn on my stream or your stream or somebody else is actually playing a real build, and they're going to see what happens there, and they're going to see the pacing and the efficiency and everything. They're just going to be like, well, what the heck, dude? I thought
there'll definitely still be more people who have fun. There is a subset of people that just really enjoy melee builds for the reason of I want to walk up and hit things with a stick. And if that's you, this is the league. Like, play melee. You're going to love it.
Oh yeah,
you're going to love it.
Yeah, I mean, Kaiser has been playing melee for like 10 years now, right?
Yeah, and people that love that. It's great. But if you're picking melee because it got buffed and you like power and you've been tricked into, melee must be the best thing this league, I will play it just because it's good, I would implore you to look for other options. You should play melee because you like melee. Specifically because you like it. It got better enough to now be competitive, but you're still bringing a stick to a gunfight. So play it because you like melee, not because you think it's going to be super, super strong. And then you'll have a good time if you're one of those people.
I wonder whether it might be actually worth just straight up considering a bow or a spellcaster start, because so many people are going melee and melee items are going to be so sought after that you might actually have a better time getting more bang for your buck. Like, sure, spells are not numerically and as strong as a place as most melee builds, but but you're gonna be fully geared out for like a handful of divines, and you're gonna have really good stuff because no one else wants it at that point.
Well, that's the old understanding, right? Like, isn't that like probably perhaps the biggest selling point to melee up until now is the fact that you're going to put your build together for dirt cheap, and now you don't even get that because everybody's hyping the hell out of everything melee, and so I mean it's just that's why I'm sitting over here like, wait a minute, I'm making a build guide and like nobody's talking about bows, dude. Oh my god, if I can have this power and my items are cheap because nobody's doing it. Like I haven't experienced that maybe ever that idea.
There are also some minor exceptions. Like I'm saying, you're bringing a stick to a gunfight, but like you're starting a melee lightning strike build. Like technically, you're a melee attack, but it's a bow build with a claw on, right? Like I
refuse to believe that is the melee skill.
Yeah, like
kind of.
Technically, I'm only saying that because I know somebody will come in and say, you said melee was going to be trash and I'm playing lightning strike and it's fantastic. I'm like, okay, but it's a bow build with a claw. Like I definitely play lightning strike. It's great.
Every strike.
Like
now that is melee.
Yeah.
Last time you played a bow build with a claw, weren't you playing Venom Gyre?
Yeah, that was
another
great.
one. Yeah, another one. Yeah.
Right. We should talk quickly about the other ascendancies. I mean, we don't know much about tinctures, so we can't really say whether they stand or fall. They do look promising, but yeah, having to invest into them to be able to use them on ranged weapons, And you also have to put some points in the tree right? Not just in the Warden ascendancy, but there is also some stuff on the tree that you need to get the flask charges for the flasks next to the activated tinctures and all that. But another big rework that we get this league is the Gladiator. When you guys see the Gladiator, like, are you hyped about the new Gladiator, or are you on the side of the people who say, like, the best way to use Gladiator is to be a Slayer and to get the jewel pair to get the lucky block?
It's average.
I will have a watchful eye on the sidelines. I think one of the coolest archetypes would be Bleed Bow, and I understand there are a lot of people who play it and they just love it. They don't even care about the power loss for doing that, and I do think it'd be really exciting as a bow enjoyer. The idea of playing like Glad Bleed Bow or something, but I don't know enough about it, and I've not devoted my time that way. But I will be eagerly hearing how it goes for some people.
There is one thing that okay, so go on, Val.
I do know about Glad Bleed Bow, and I really loved it and Corrupting Fever in the past. For what they've reworked Glad into, it looks significantly better. If you're like I want to block tank stuff, use Retaliate thing, I think that's going to be really fun. I don't think it's going to be like S tier meta good or anything. Bleed Bow and Corrupting Fever Bow and Wands on Gladiator basically lost an ascendant. It's got 2.5 ascendancy points now. So I just don't think that's how we're going to play those builds anymore. For the sake of like Bow and Wands in Bleed and Corrupting Blood, I think that's they killed it with that. That's fine. That they reworked it into being something else. We'll have to look for another way to play that. Maybe Champion or something else. I don't know yet, but I don't think Glad's the play for that anymore.
You do realize that they doubled the bleed explosions, right?
Yeah, but they got rid of everything else that we wanted.
I think.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're twice as strong as before.
I think the problem with the Gladiator is they are forcing us to play with either dual wielding or a shield. If the block has something to do with staff, for example, and also there's a unique quiver that make bows also have some block or something like that, just make it more universal so you can use it with different kind of weapon setup. Also, the weapon mastery node is I don't think they thought it through very well in the Gladiator. It is okay in some case, but I think pretty much everyone who is POBing a Leaguestart Gladiator have the exactly same skill tree, pretty much. Nothing else. I think the most hipster idea is the Gladiator using the Varunastra for like a cast on crit setup. That is probably the most hipster and actually seems okay enough idea, but everything else is basically the same bleed build. Nothing more than that. So that is a problem with the Gladiator.
Right. I actually really like the shield node, the 50% base chance from block from equipped shield, regardless of the shield's value, because that opens up the Gladiator to a lot of different unique shields, among which there's also the one that only has like 12% base block, right? I forgot its name, but that one looked actually pretty okay. But you bring up a very valuable point there. The staff thing has been a pet peeve of mine for a long time. The fact that dual wield gets its block inherently from dual wielding, shields get their block from the base stats on shields, and fucking staves have to sacrifice their implicit for the staff block. And you cannot corrupt a staff for a different implicit, because then you're going to lose the staff block. And if that's not enough, like corrupting a staff is already hard because they generally need to be 6-socketed and 6-linked, right? So you're already like at a bigger investment there to corrupt a good staff. And I just personally think that the block on staves should be baked into the base and not part of the implicit. They should have different implicits. But yeah, maybe I'm just cooked for thinking that. But for me, that's like a big frustration about staves, is that they need their implicit to have the block.
Also, one single very high damage bleed. If you want to do an ailment build with the one single ailment like Ignite or Bleed, you want like a heavy hit, and two-handed weapon is heavy hitting, right? Not one-handed. So I don't understand why they don't make anything to do with staff in the Gladiator ascendancy, because it's technically a block weapon. If they can just make it like the base bonus to shield also is to staff with like a less effect or something like that, that would be okay, right? It will open up like more possibility. But right now pretty much they are designing a couple of builds for the ascendancy class, and we cannot move away from it because it's just almost impossible.
I think it's built to be retaliation. I think the idea is you can throw quick, easy bleeds around while mapping, and then you look to retaliate on tanky mobs, which in theory sounds like a cool idea until you like have to let Shaper slam you in the face so that you can get a good bleed. I don't know how that's going to work.
By the way, Jesus, the Gladiation triggers me so hard. Why do they have to remove the Vengeance and the Reckoning and the Riposte from the game?
Yeah.
I don't understand why they have to remove them. Just let them exist in the game. They are not breaking the game in any way, right?
Just add the new stuff and that's it. Now you got more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So we now have to press the button, which is why I think GGG is hating the playstyle that is like no button pressing.
That makes for an interesting conversation topic there. Yeah. Actually, I'll be curious. Just I don't want to derail the convo too much, but like when you guys did the PoE2 thing, did you feel like you had to press a bunch of buttons to be highly functional?
Okay. So I've talked about this a little bit. I definitely did not, even early, have to press multiple buttons. But and this is directly against what I said before I went there. Before I went there, I was somebody who was like, nope, fuck you, one button, I will figure it out. You can't make me. I'll do one button. This is who I am as a person. And then I played it, and the way that they added new skills in made me actively want to press another button. But I never felt like I had to press 15 buttons to do things. It felt like I had a different, fully functional build to deal with a different situation. Because of the way the gem links work there, where it's like, this is actually a full skill, and this is actually a full skill, and this is actually a fully linked skill. it didn't feel like I had to press 7 buttons to do a different combination of things. It felt like I have a button for there are mobs everywhere, and I have a different button for here's a group of relatively tanky mobs, and then I had another button for here's a boss man, and then I could use the here's a boss man button if like Catmaster threw the bell down, which is hilariously good. And I'm like, a bell. And I'd actively like want to dodge roll behind so that I could shoot through the bell and use a different button. And I ended up mapping like 4 buttons to my thing before I even realized that I was doing it, and then being happy to use them, which is the exact opposite of what I thought I would do before I went there. I was very against it. And then it just sort of happened. and it was good. So I don't know, Ryan.
So you're saying PoE 2 is well designed?
Yeah. And they did the thing that I said they wouldn't do, that they said they would do. They said they'd make me want to press another button rather than feel like I have to press another button. And then I was like, bullshit. No, you won't. And then I went there, and yes, they did. And I was wrong.
I'm
sounds good,
like,
actually.
that's probably the single best thing I could hear about PoE 2, because when I play Last Epoch, there's a build I play there where I am responsible, shall we say, for pressing 3 or 4 buttons, not 1 or 2 like I do in PoE. And I enjoy the gameplay of that build more than any build I've ever played on in PoE. Now, PoE has many great things going for it, like the theory crafting, the process of gearing, the all the different league mechanics and all of that has amazing things going for it. But in terms of actual combat, feel of combat, Last Epoch has a leg up on PoE as far as I'm concerned. Now, maybe that's just because I got really lucky with the build that I made over there, but that's what I'm looking for. And I this has been a video I've been wanting to make for a long time. I'm not really sure how to do it because it's actually a very serious video to me, but I think this whole idea that the PoE community has in general, where they think that the mark of a good build is how few buttons you have to press, or how much can you make the build AFK friendly. I do not think that is a hallmark of a good ARPG. I don't think that is the direction this kind of game is supposed to go. I think you're supposed to be incentivized and willing and even wanting to press more than 1 button, or certainly more than 0 buttons, right? And I do think the mark of a good ARPG is one where it allows you to do everything. But I think there should be a tremendous opportunity cost and power in some way in order to make a build work where you press 0 or 1 buttons. And I think that the very best builds in the game should be more interactive and allow for more interactive gameplay and paying more attention to what's going on, and not necessarily Dark Souls like, but Last Epoch I think done a very good job threading that needle. I've been very impressed, and I look forward to seeing what PoE 2 is like with the weapon swap text they have there and other things that you probably experienced that I haven't yet. Valor,
I can't wait till my 0 button build does better than your 14 button build.
13 button builds are not a good idea either. There certainly is something, it's not like more buttons is automatically better. Okay.
I think the conversation is, it's not necessarily has to like want people to go for 0 button build, but I want it to be an option. So if you invest enough, if you think enough, if you have enough setup, you should be able to do something like that. It should not be removed from the game, because especially for people who play it like for 20 hours a day like us, we eventually reach a point where we don't want to press the button because it physically is
Netflix and Blake.
It's not feeling good, right? It hurts. Exactly. It hurts. So it is an extreme, but I think it is a good extreme to exist in a game. Like, there's not a lot of people who is playing RF for the whole league, or like cast when stunned like I do. But I think there are people who enjoy it, and there should be option for it. That is what I think it's a good thing.
Obviously, you're going to say that with a 0 button build guide out.
Okay, I have nothing but a 0 button build guide out. the thing is, I
I will.
enjoy playing it, right? So
Yeah,
I
no,
want it to
I'm
be
just
awesome.
joking. No, you're right. I mean, I think definitely there should be options, but obviously there's a great difference with how it's handled in PoE 1 and how the player perception is in PoE 1 versus what Balor just described the dynamic is like in PoE 2, as someone who would call themselves not a multi-button build lover in PoE 1. And so, yeah, I personally think when I played PoE 2, I also obviously started off with just one skill, and spamming one skill was just fine if I was willing to, you know, take a little bit longer and to sidestep in between the attacks so that I don't get hit. But it felt so rewarding to set up the combos, especially with the bell that Balor mentioned, and to use. I had another skill that did kind of leave a frost bomb on the ground, similar to frost bomb, but it was an attack skill, and it was linked, or like in the animation was like a backflip sort of, where the character took like a leap backwards. And after some getting used to it, which was obviously very awkward, but all of a sudden I like that, and I put that into my combos all the time, similar to how the Falconer in Last Epoch has this backwards movement when they shoot the net, right? I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, or I mean, you know, the most there is something we can all relate to. We've all played like these Street Fighter games, at some point, Mortal Kombat, something like that. They have just, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about or what we're talking about, just imagine like you could be the kind of player who walks up to the other character and taps Y a bunch of times. He just punches the heck out of him, and that could be like the most fulfilling thing you get out of the game. But at some point, you might stumble onto this idea of like actual combos and figuring out how certain things work, and suddenly, if you do go that far in a game like that and figure those things out, it becomes very fulfilling to be able to pull those off, and you get really good at it. Like, it's very awkward at first. So like, okay, I need to press A, then X, and Y at a certain speed or something. But you know, you just get good at it and just start to feel invigorating, and you see the efficiency of your character or your class, whatever, rise in real time as you improve at how you're doing that. And that is, like I said, that is the direction I would like to see PoE take in PoE 2. And it sounds like that's what they're doing. But based on what you just said, Catmaster, that sounds exactly like what you experienced.
Yeah, definitely. Nice little side trick. I like that. But where were we with regards to PoE 1? We were talking about the ascendancy. Is there something that you still want to
point earlier?
No, but it was a good conversation to have.
We were doing ascendancies. We're looking at the ascendancy Gladiator. Is there another one you wanted to, or anything else? And maybe we concluded that anyway.
We did talk sufficiently about the Gladiator. The Berserker also got changed. Do you have any takes on that?
It looks like the worst.
It's shit.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm putting
It did lose a lot of attack speed, weirdly.
I don't have anything to say. I didn't even know it was changed.
I think it's just underwhelming at the moment. Probably it's dead for this league.
Yeah, I think it's probably the worst ascendancy, especially to try melee on right now. It looks like, anyway. There might be some exceptions somewhere. I don't know about yet, but generally speaking, steer clear of that, I'd say.
Right. Fair enough. Warcries have infinite power is now on Chieftain, which previously that was only on the unique shield, right?
Yeah.
The infinite power was on the warband Red Blade banner.
Yeah, I got nothing on that. I don't really know how Warcries even work, to be honest. I'm not sure I've ever used them.
It is slightly better than before. The note before was kind of useless, and now the pathing to the 6-link slam, so additional link for slam and for strike skill, is now you have 2 ways to go to it, so it's a little bit better, but it is not changing much overall. I think now it's more viable for slam, but that is pretty much it.
Fair enough. Have you guys looked at the Juggernaut then.
Ooh, I
Because the
did.
Juggernaut now not only has the Unrelenting Ascendancy passive skill changed to no longer provide Chaos Resist per endurance charge or reduced elemental damage taken at maximum endurance charges, but it gets 1% additional elemental damage reduction per endurance charge, which is stacking with the new effect of endurance charges, which is they per default provide 4% elemental damage reduction.
Yeah,
So-
endurance charge is real strong now, by the way.
So I played like exclusively Juggernaut last league and before, and probably I will still play Juggernaut. And I think that the particular ascendancy for 1 additional percent is actually a little bit weak, because if you think about it, if you have 10 endurance charges, right, and that is already a good amount, then you have pretty much 10% reduced damage taken, but for only elemental and physical. Normally 10% reduced damage taken is less than an ascendancy point, in my opinion. So this particular one is a little bit underwhelming. It is useful, it's not useless, but it is also not strong. The other one is okay. It's much better though.
Yeah, you only get 10% additional, but you already have 40 from the base effect of the endurance charges.
But
So
all the
it's
other
like,
classes also have that.
yeah, all the other classes have that. I'm just saying the 10 additional damage reduction is actually like 18% less damage taken. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, endurance charges is very strong, but Slayer is going to benefit much more from it with the masterful form. But Juggernaut is, you still have the endurance charges like other classes, so it's not as big of an ascendancy point. I would say overall the power of the character will go up, but the power of the actual ascendancy goes down, if that makes sense. Just because you have better endurance charges. But
Fair.
overall, it's still a very tanky, just a pure tank ascendancy, except if you want to do accuracy stacking. But the rest of it is just tank.
Right. Yeah, I think that's covers most of the ascendancy changes, I guess. Maybe still a word about Deadeye, since Deadeye's Farshot no longer provides Farshot, which is really weird seeing that it still is called Farshot as an ascendancy passive, and there's still a mechanic in the game that's called Farshot. That's on, for example, the Lionized Glare Bow, which is a little weird. I wish they would have changed the name there.
Fledgling. I made a whole video on this whole thing. The Fledgling is going to be the best in slot helmet for Deadeyes now, for sure. With the enchant on the bow for return projectiles. You can enchant Farshot on your bow. You could do that early, and you could essentially get double Farshot. There's like a mini version, and then the old version. But yeah, the Deadeye no longer has the formal version of Farshot, and they should have changed the name on this if they didn't already. To avoid confusion. Like at least, in the passive tree, we have long shot and then you have far shot ascendancy. At least be, diligent enough to change the name to that extent. But yeah, it's very, I'm not happy about the fact that they changed it and left the name the same. So now there's two versions of the same thing. It's going to confuse players who aren't in the know tremendously. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I made a video on it to help prevent that. But yeah, that helmet you have right there. The helmet slot is one of the more flexible slots for Deadeyes usually. Even when we were magic finding, which I mean, we can
Oh wow, here they already invalidated the wiki. Sorry for interrupting, but it says Farshot cannot stack with other sources of the modifiers, such as the Farshot Ascendancy passive skill, which is just not true because that's not a source of the Farshot anymore, even though it's called Farshot.
Where does it say that? This would be news
Right
to
here.
me because I definitely read the mechanics page on that when I made the video a few days ago.
Right here on the Fledgling. Here, first.
Oh, this is
underneath.
outdated. All right, so that's outdated.
This is outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
how
this
it
is
like,
this is the
currently
PoE
right
wiki.
this second.
We've already got
More.
confirmation from multiple sources that they do stack and that they're not indeed the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Basically,
but like, there might be people.
Long story short, if you had Farshot on the Deadeye Ascendancy before, you had 60% more damage at max range and 20% less damage at close range. Now, if you have that same Ascendancy and you get it elsewhere, you have up to 90% more damage at long range and 20% less damage at short range. That's basically the nut and bolts of it. And that downside on there, projectiles cannot collide with enemies in close range. I tested it myself. Apparently that has like a 2 meter radius. It's essentially nothing. It only doesn't hit monsters that are inside your body when you attack. Anything that's not inside the character's frame will get hit by that. So essentially everything.
It's actually fine.
I have some ramifications for Nimbus play where you're trying to like shotgun return projectiles. You stand right on top of the hitbox for the enemy. That's some really meta thing I'm saying here. But other than that, yeah, it'd be good.
Fair enough. Right. So we are already deep in the patch. Do we want to go back a little bit into the league mechanic? Because we've only really talked about one reward of the league mechanic. And
Talk about
that
those
was
enchants, man. Those weapon enchants. That's the only thing I'm really excited about, to be honest.
Yeah, well, let's go right into the weapon enchants if that's something you're excited about.
Do you have the picture of it? Of the bow enchants?
No, I know what you mean. The fact that you can
Point
get
blank,
the
bar shot, return proc, all that stuff. And people are so confused about it because they're like, on the weapon.
We don't
People
know
are
if
so
it'll go on the
confused.
bow.
Yes, we do, because the bow was inside the bench at the time when the picture was taken, and then it's highlighted everything that can be used. Yeah, that's literally what I was saying. People are confused about that, but if you pull the picture up, you can see it removes all confusion about it.
Suddenly, I want to play bows. I might have
I'd be
missed that.
concerned if I was a bow character with a claw. Maybe return projectiles can't be enchanted on a claw. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but I don't know where it was. It was somewhere
Maybe
on the
I
Reddit,
can,
but it's always hard to
maybe-
re-find these things.
Yeah. I'll look for it.
Oh, here, I got it. Never mind.
I'm slightly sad that those enchants won't go on unique weapons.
Yeah, that's stupid to
same.
me. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that.
Like, I don't know what it is that breaks. It's just a weird thing to like. I don't know. It seems like there would be really cool things to do with uniques. I wonder if it wasn't even intentional and it was just like, this won't work mechanically and it's not worth our time to fix.
Can you scroll
No,
down?
they
on the picture
they
to see
clearly
the
went-
Item?
No, I don't have the one where you show the item. That's just the list. But does it matter? Like, take our word for it.
To what I was saying, well, it's okay. There is another form of this picture that has a longer. You can scroll down further, and that is a bow in there. You can barely see.
Oh,
the
I thought
tip
it
of
was
the
just
bow.
highlighting the bow up there or something like that. Or you're like that it
No,
showed
down
while
below,
hovering.
The item is placed inside the bench down below, and there is a version of this picture that shows the entire item. It is a bow. 100%.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
like the one that I
shit.
looked at was a different one, where
And then you
someone
can
was
see all of
hovering the
these
point
things-
blank, and it was highlighting the bow and on the point blank while the mouse was
Yes.
over point blank or
Yes.
something like that.
So anyone who knows this game well enough knows that if all of those selections are highlighted there, they are available to be enchanted on that weapon type. Every single thing on that line can be enchanted on a bow, including apply additional curse, apparently. Which is weird.
Yeah. So, what I wanted to say is, like, they specifically went out of their way to disable these runesmithing mods on unique weapons because people were already saying, well, we're just gonna craft it on a rare weapon and then we're gonna scour the rare weapon and chance it into unique. And they specifically said that any item with a mod like this on it will not be able to be turned into a unique item.
Right.
Wow, that's wild.
And you can't put these on a unique. I think that the whole point is that they wanted to make rares better and give rares a little bit of an edge.
Why can't they give tainted mythic orbs some love? Oh my god.
It just seems it's weird. It takes away like one of my build ideas was like going to be using a unique weapon, and now I don't want to play that build because I can't use an enchant, and that just feels bad. That's all. Like, why?
We could have had a meme item. We could have had a lionized glare with far shot enchanted on it. It would have been a great for the MP meme house or whatever.
Well, maybe
That'd be
there's
really
still
hard
going
to
to be
get.
like a
To
top
open
secret
to a
method
tier
how you can
0.
do that. Maybe, maybe you can recombinate. Did they say that you can't recombinate runesmithing mods? But maybe you can recombinate it onto a different bow, and then that bow can be chanced into a unique, because that bow wasn't the one that the runesmithing mod was originally applied to, or something like that. Maybe there's some sort of 5-head exploit how to do it.
Blowing my mind. Yeah.
Hopefully.
I hope, yeah.
See,
I doubt it.
You have moments like this where the whole time I say I think you're a casual, but then you pull something like that out of the hat, and it's like no casual would think of that.
But I'm pretty casual.
Such a scenario.
I'm actually actively working on becoming more casual. I actually am picking up a full-time job to become more casual so I can represent the casuals. Right. Is it just me, or is everyone, by the way, since we're on a natural like kind of point here, is everyone super delayed in this conversation? Or is it coming from me? Should I restart my computer? And like, I just hear you guys. I'm not even acting on the picture anymore because it's so out of sync. Like whenever I hear you guys talking, like I see you talking for 10 seconds longer than you're actually talking on the audio.
It's
Mine's fine.
actually fine for me.
Okay.
Seems terrifically
it's just
fine to
on
me
my
as well.
end. Okay, well that's fine as long as it's yeah. Would have started with 3 wives first, but if Catmaster wants to start with a job, good for him. Well, I mean, you're maybe better looking than I am, but without a job, I'm not gonna get 3 wives.
Oh my god, that's gonna derail the convo real quick.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so runesmithing it is. As one of the rewards, right? We already talked about the auction house, which is not strictly a reward from the league, but it is.
It sort of is.
Yeah, it is because it comes through a league NPC, and it might not go core, and it will not be available in standard for now, right? They did say
Just
that.
so we're all on the same page, there's a 0% chance that it doesn't go core, right? Like everyone's aware that there's like no fucking way that they take that away after giving it to people, right?
Yeah.
It's
They're
gonna be
losing
hard.
minds.
Yeah.
There's no way. Once you give us that, the cat's out the bag. Auction houses are like herpes. Like once we've got it, we've got it. It's too late. It just stays now forever.
Honestly, I thought the same thing about Recombinators when they were there for Sentinel. I mean, those are the most fun mechanic in an ARPG ever in terms of like crafting, and they couldn't have taken them away, but then they did, and they didn't come back for like an entire year. And even now, we're not getting Recombinators back.
Recombinator for 14, 10 years or whatever the amount of years you are playing. Everyone have been asking for the auction house for at least currency since forever.
Yeah.
That is
True.
different level than the Recombinator. That is just a shiny new toy, in my opinion. It's good, but it's just something new that you don't expect. So it would not hit as hard as something that everyone really wants from the start already. Finally, we have it after years.
Was not Chris Wilson the primary person blockading the door on that change for a long time? And now, yeah.
Where is Chris, by the way?
I don't know.
They went out of their way last year when there was like this wrong listing where everyone thought, hey, Chris stepped down as CEO, and then he went out of his way to confirm on the Reddit that he is indeed still the CEO. But then he hasn't been public.
He's running the company rather than directing a specific game.
Company is too big.
Yeah, I made a joke that I think now when they do the intro, hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games, and then he just immediately pawns it off to Mark. I think they're just doing AI Chris Wilson now, and they have him buried 6 feet under somewhere.
There is
It's not even real.
There is a chance. There is a chance.
Yeah, with Mark in charge of PV1, he's doing
the
things
auction
now.
house. Then the fact the auction house is the ultimate reveal that is the case.
Yeah.
Because there's no way if he was actually in charge that we would have an auction house. The conspiracy just keeps getting deeper, guys.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns is being puppeteered by Smithers from the top behind the stage in order to get the investors to continue paying money. Nah, I think at least I hope Chris is alive and well and not being held captive.
In the live stream.
Yeah,
but that was AI Chris Wilson. You just said that.
Yeah, that's AI. Yeah, entirely. Just read a script.
It's advanced. It's advanced enough. I mean, game developers will be able to pull that off. You kidding me?
Next 2 things. slavers to run maps for us,
Mm-hmm.
and boats return.
Wait, we didn't even talk about the Recombinators at all.
We don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Well, we
they
know
said
that they're
they-
worse than they were before. We know that there's no specific mods anymore on them, and that you
No
can't
mutated
do fractured mods, right? Can you?
Yeah.
Did they say anything on that? You can't like do double
No, they
fractured
changed
items
that,
anymore for
like,
sure.
immediately after the Recombinator League, so all the standard ones can't do fractures either.
Personally, I am even more excited about Calandra than
Really?
Right.
the fact that we can get the negative modifiers. There was some very, very interesting thing that can comes from that. The reduced projectile with the spectral helix thing, the whatever, the chest that is Doriani's prototype with lightning
Yeah,
resistance
with the
minus.
negative
Yeah.
lightning res.
There's quite a lot of like potential. For Recombinator, you basically just make good items, but for Calandra, you kind of make like uniques and interesting items. So that is what I kind of am more hyped about. Just my take.
Yeah, a little bit more specific what items you put in there. That's true.
All right, I have a theory about all this. They removed Magic Find, right? So they removed Quant, not Rarity, and I think if they're bringing Calandra, the mechanic Calandra back, maybe they bring God Touched Loot Explosions back.
Please.
What if?
Please.
Yes.
What if we're Magic Finding with no Magic Find gear? Everybody's got to be, and nobody can be
That's
unhappy
fair.
about that.
Yeah, true.
I want it, so I'm willing to get on board, but that is copium. But
Okay,
also
yeah.
let's pretend that it's not and go with it.
It's too sincere to be cope. It's too sincere.
Right.
I can only wish.
Should be fish.
Didn't they add like a whole bunch of quantity to, I mean, not to player quantity, but to like specific elite monsters? I think I remember seeing something like that
Yeah.
in the patch notes.
Mm-hmm.
They
Well,
did.
and the audience might be interested to know that quantity on players is not actually gone. You can get it in creative ways like the Covetous Shrine or the Glittering Scarab, which is still going to be a way to Magic Find. And that Scarab is going to be the most expensive Scarab in the game.
Probably.
Almost certainly. Even if, especially with the advent of the Curation Scarab being nerfed or wrecked or whatever. You
So
can get
those
up
are
100%
definitely things.
quant on a character with a Scarab.
Those are definitely things that you're going to implement in your build. Now, what other build decisions are you making? How are you replacing quantity on your items when you go making your min-maxed MF build?
So this is what's going to happen. If assuming the Glittering Scarab wasn't suddenly made more common, it is going to be prohibitively expensive. It's going to be used only by group farmers, 6-man parties for a while, and then not until most of the group farmers kind of retire from the league, which is usually a week or two into the league, and a whole bunch of other people start farming the game, and just tons of scarabs start flooding the market. Only until then will you see a situation where like solo players are going to reliably be incorporating that into their strategies. They're only going to be able to do it if they have a terrific character that can do some of the hardest content, like and I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's going to be kind of weird because we're going to be fishing for the wildwood and stuff, but I don't know if that's going to be real strategy. You can't afford to throw in a terribly expensive scarab fishing for a wildwood. That doesn't make any sense. So there might be some sort of strategy or something. Also, another thing that's going to be interesting this league, very interesting, seeing the uniques market, the low tier uniques market, to see what happens to the cost of Headhunter, Mageblood, and all kinds of things. Nimbus, divination card farming is being completely upended this league as well. And I think most people are anticipating that it's not going to be anything like last league where uniques were dirt cheap. But we could be wrong because, again, they are throwing like everything but the kitchen sink at us. So we could have another situation where, wow, Affliction's crazy, guys. Look at the cost of these uniques. That's never going to happen again. Oh my God, you see Necropolis like 6 Divine Headhunter? What? That's definitely never going to happen again. And then this league, it's like Headhunters 2 Divines or something for some wild reason. I don't know. I mean, that's you never know. You never know. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Could be something as simple as tears show up so often and have really good loot in them that everybody can get their own.
Yeah,
Like it could be anything. It could be anything.
Maybe our pirate ships just come back and they're just hoisted with coffers of headhunters and mage bloods and stuff.
Surely.
Okay.
On that note, were you guys surprised to learn that last league, like individual players were able to juice out like up to 100,000 uniques per map? That was like mind blowing to learn that, right?
I thought it would be like 10,000, but 100,000 seems like
Yeah,
I can't even imagine
yeah.
the number of pixel can even fit in the screen.
You guys know the strategy, right? Like they were sheepish about it, right? You guys don't know what the strategy was? Balor, you know what it was, right?
I didn't get the details. I just saw them run a few maps. I got shown offline on Discord. I was like, that's gross. I never want to see this again. Bye.
Well, there were two utterly broken strats that occurred last league, and both of them got fixed. One of them was the torment spirit spawning when a unique monster gets low life, and it was the rogue exile thing and the divination card farming. Absurd amount of loot dropping in a map, raw loot. That one got fixed in a few days. Then came the one we're referring to now, which the 10,000 or 100,000 uniques dropping in a map, which was meat sacks on I think back to basics. Yeah, back to basics with the league mechanic spawning tormented spirits, quintuple, octuple ghosted meat sack monsters with 10, 12 modifiers on them, created and wearing magnifying gear and popping that monster with, a bunch of player quant and stuff, created 10-second lag spikes when it died because the game suddenly had to render I don't know, 1,000 uniques that dropped off one monster, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so there was a showcase of Ben doing that in hardcore for a moment, and there's one particular notorious clip of that where you could see that in action.
Imperial group actually did one of that. Not the entire group, but like 4 people actually have a whole YouTube video on that particular thing.
I didn't see it, but I'm at least aware of what the strat was. I never technically did that strat, but I was doing a similar thing with scarab farming. I was double, triple ghosting meat sacks for scarab farming with them in a back to basics map. Similarly, the funny thing is, even after it got nerfed, because of the Necropolis League mechanics, sometimes you would get monsters are possessed, or when monster dies, it spawns a tormented spirit, and you could still actually ghost them up. You had to get lucky with the Necropolis mechanic, but it was still possible to do that
every
even
one
after
of them
the
in the
nerf.
map. But
yeah, so
you get
could
one here and there.
A map, and do it every time.
Getting one here and there though feels fine.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteeing it on every single one. Yeah, okay, that was a little OP.
One last point I'll make, it's kind of on the same subject. One of the biggest things people hated about this last league is the fishing aspect of it. The fishing for the Divine Orb Lantern, the fishing for the Seer, that sort of thing. Thought it was the worst gameplay we've ever seen. And that was one of the huge worst rubs of last league. We could see potentially a similar thing happen this time. Fishing for Wildwoods could be a thing. But at least that's going to require more output on the player's part. It's certainly a little bit more invigorating than killing a pack of monsters and getting a seer for a vendor, at the very least. But we could see a situation where,
I just can't see that happening, because to make the Wildwood worth it, you have to juice the map. And like, who's going to put in all that juice and then just close it?
I had mentioned earlier the scarab, glittering scarab. Obviously, that is a point of contention, but there are ways to juice up maps cheaply. Like you can just I'm thinking doubling down on wisp stuff. So the wisp scarabs are really cheap. They now give 2,000 of that. They're very common. So you could plug in 8,000 wisp power and then fish for wildwoods on top of it to get like 20k wildwood wisp maps. And if that's programmed anywhere remotely what it was in Affliction League, that will be worth fishing for. I can promise you that, with or without Magic Find Gear. If you had the character to handle that, that will be worth it. Now, I suspect that Affliction has been reprogrammed, so it's not nearly as rewarding, like nowhere near as rewarding for the same amount of juice as it was last time. And my evidence for that is the fact that the Wisp Scarab this past time sucked. So with only
Absolutely.
up to 4,000 wisp power, it didn't seem to produce that many goods. And I mean, many of you guys played in Affliction League. You would have maps where you get 3,000 or 4,000 wisp power, and maybe it wasn't that
Still
great.
okay.
But you definitely felt it. You felt it in a big way. But people noticed with the Scarab that it sucks. So either it's an issue with the Scarab's programming, or it's an issue of them reprogramming the Wisp Affliction mechanic at its core, bringing it back in its core form. I would anticipate that it has been reprogrammed to be nowhere near as rewarding as it was. But my God, 20,000 Wisp power is still 20,000, and that might produce some pretty crazy things, even still.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to find that out. What do you guys think about those like new top end game stuff, encounters only spawning in tier 16 and above? Do you think that's a wise decision, or would you have liked to see it at like as high as or as low as level 14 maps, tier 14 maps, to allow more people to experience those things? Because they'd still be less rewarding at that lower tier, right?
Nah, I think it's good.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
More
I feel like
encourage
it's
people to get
lazy.
the high map.
I feel it's a little lazy though. So they say they don't like the idea of players deliberately farming lower tier content for more gear. I understand that the reasoning for that. I just think that there are better and more creative ways to circumvent that. An example, and my absolute favorite mechanic that came out, I guess now 2 years ago, was the core changes to the Eldritch Minion altars to juice your maps up tier 14, 15, 16. That created a situation where whatever you're doing as far as juicing, I mean, it obliterated Magic Find below tier 14. In a sense, you could still do it, but you had to reconcile the fact that you were getting outpaced by players who did go above and beyond, make a really strong character, a hybridized Magic Find character at the time, and farm higher tier maps doing that. That is an intelligent way to circumvent these issues, to just straight up turn off the mechanic. A league mechanic or a core mechanic like that is
What's
not
the difference? What's the
the
difference?
difference is it's
Eldritch
part of a
Altars drop in only 14 plus, or what if they dropped in only tier 16s?
perhaps part of it is the fact that it was always that way, and you bring up a decent point. Yeah, as I was saying, I was thinking about that a little bit myself. So they do begin to spawn at tier 7 and tier 8, and maybe they could have left it that way for the remainder and just make them weaker. So I do agree there was an opportunity to make Eldritch Altars scale all the way down, and just maybe the percentage numbers are a lot less at the lower level. The lower tier you go, the less of a percentage it is, or the weaker the mechanic becomes. But I definitely like the idea that mechanics are available to players early on. There are players who progress this game very slowly. They stuck in white maps for a long time. Yellow maps would be nice if they could explore those mechanics. I know the developing team agrees with that. That's why they put league mechanics in the mud flats, for crying out loud. And so why can't they do that for virtually everything?
I
that's
just
a
don't
great
think
point,
it needs to be
and,
the
yeah.
same game in tier 5 as it is in tier 16. Even if you progress slowly, great, sure. But after all of your hard work and you get to the higher tiers, something new unlocks to reward you further.
Okay.
That
You're talking about like
feels good to
benchmark
me.
experiences in other in higher tiers.
Like
That's
I'm
a valid,
okay with that,
that's
I
a valid
guess.
argument. Yeah. I feel like that sort of thing is reserved more for bossing, like pinnacle bossing. You know, you got to be at this level to do this boss. You got to be at this level to do that. For mapping, I feel like to me, it just shouldn't apply nearly as much.
Maybe they don't care that much about making PoE 1 a like new player friendly game anymore. I mean, they are still doing stuff for it, but they do not really like prioritize it heavily. So they still can do things like gating some content in higher tier maps or something like that, because they are having a different game that is supposed to be better to the variety of more variety of players, basically. So maybe just
would you guys agree that much of the success of the reception of Affliction League rode on the fact that that mechanic could be done in lower tier maps? I believe that to be the case.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, agree.
That is a strong case for my argument.
Yes, different rules apply to league mechanics than things that go into the base game. To me, league mechanics should always be available at every stage of the game. Whereas I find that, okay, to unlock new things that are part of the base game as you progress further and have some stuff gated behind the highest tier of maps.
That kind of speaks to my argument too. The Eldritch Altars are part of the base game. They're not a league mechanic. Whereas the Wildwood was, and it's plugged back in as such. So it seems a little strange that it's...
The Eldritch Altars appear as early as, like, what, tier 6 or something like that? The first time you play through the game, right?
They are part of the base game core mechanic tethered to the boss mechanic. So they appear early because it's only one time, because you haven't killed the pinnacle boss. It's almost like a separate mechanic. It's like, okay, we're
absolutely. But like my point being is it you encounter it early and you kind of learn to go with it, like to how it works sort of. And then I don't think it's as bad that it only appears in 14 plus from then on. With the Wildwood for a new player, I feel like it's kind of, well, not just the Wildwood, right? Like I don't mind that there is in tier 16 and above maps, there are some things that are exclusive to that tier of maps. But I wouldn't have minded if some of the new things between Asmeri Wildwood, Nameless Seer, the Mist from Kalandra League, and what else has been added? There was something else, but like if some of those things could also spawn in lower than tier 16, I wouldn't have minded.
I don't think it's like a one rule all thing. Like there are good points on both sides, but right now they do it both ways. Some things are through the whole game and some things are unlocked at the end. That's a good balance. I don't see a problem.
No, I don't see a problem. I just like to discuss it.
Yeah, maybe.
That's why we have a podcast, right? To hash out these ideas and thoughts about it and see what the community thinks of it.
Fair enough. Are there any pressing points that you, as we're running suspiciously close to the 2-hour mark? Oh, we actually already exceeded it. Automatically running maps, is that what you're saying? Delegate map running?
Less slaves running maps. Okay, they're workers, sure.
Are you guys going to take the league mechanic seriously on day 1 and 2, 3? There's the communities,
Yeah,
the different segments of the community.
Where you got to progress to where it's going to make you fat cash, right? So,
well, there's a lot of people who play the game differently, and they don't ever touch league mechanic until they let somebody else figure it out, and they don't want to mess with it because they want to do what they know, the tried and true method of, kicking off a successful league start, farming currency, if you will. They're going to do what's tried and true. For example, Legion farming early on, or if it's Blight for you, that's Blight, or if it's running Heist for you, it's running Heist. They're going to do whatever it is they like to do, and then they'll let other people figure it out. But I was just curious if you guys are going to, forego what is known, and you're going to dive into the unknown right off the bat and spend a bunch of time and energy learning the league mechanic.
Here's my plan for the day 1, because I'm usually also one of those people that barely touch the league mechanic. I do the same thing every league start.
I know that.
I heavily interact with the league mechanic in Act 1 because quite often its league mechanics are pretty rewarding, and I think it's worth the extra 10 minutes that it takes you to get through Act 1, because
it might drop your tabula.
Yeah, a lot of Act 1 rewards will be things that are really, really good. Life Sprigs, Wanderlusts, Tabulas, Gold Rims, those sort of things that like really do help you progress the entire campaign very smoothly.
Alks, Essences.
So, yeah, Alks, Essences, those sort of things. Act 1, I always play with the new league mechanic, and then I don't touch it again until maps. That's it. But as soon as I get to maps, I will be doing the league mechanic because 2 reasons. 1, they get to run maps for me. I, personally at least, always have an excess of maps. Even when I'm struggling to progress, I may not have the maps I need, but I've always got maps I don't need from behind me. And I'm going to be going as quick as I can to get somebody running up map constantly. I want my slavers off running maps the entire day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, go off and run maps. I don't even care if they have to be like transmuted white tier maps. Like I will make my guys spend the first 6 hours of my mapping experience in cells, getting me more 6-link cards. Like I don't, just get them out, and you can stack. Like once you get a dude that can run maps for you, you can just stack like 12 maps in a row or something and not go back for an hour. But like, you're going to want him running it because it's going to happen while you're mapping. And I can't imagine it takes you that much time. And even if he gets a quarter of the rewards you do, well, that still means when you come back, you got 4 maps worth of loot for free. So like, I don't know. I feel like you have to. I feel like you gotta.
Personally, I
Well,
also agree with Baller because the problem is the league mechanic this time have a lot of time-gated mechanics. So you have to wait. So the moment that you start it, and then you have to wait for a certain amount of time to get some loot or some bonuses or whatever back, right? So the sooner you start it, the faster you kind of progress, right? So I think it will snowball into overall a better experience. I don't think it's going to take that much time to set it up, but I think it is actually a good thing to take the league mechanics seriously from the beginning. And also, personally, I always try something new every single league. There is something new, I will try it. More often than not, my Leaguestart is always horrible, but I just like to do it. So, and also the league mechanic, the thing that I am excited about the most is the enchants, the new things on the rare items that you can put on, right? So potentially it can be something interesting unlocked that we have not seen in the trailers and stuff. I'm excited for that, and so I want to find out about it as soon as possible. So that is going to be my approach. I am going to interact with this as much as possible, basically. Also, because of my particular situation, I cannot really Leaguestart from like T0. Whenever everyone start, I'm still sleeping because I also share the room with my wife and kid, and I cannot really do it on 3 a.m., right? I have to wait until everything is settled. So I start later anyway. So I'm not in a stress to like push as fast as possible. So I always do something wonky in the Leaguestart, so everyone else don't have to do it.
Yeah, from a content perspective, it's also just great to check out these things and then to be able to report
true.
back and be like, yeah, this is good to do. This is a waste of time. This is something I should have done earlier, right? And like I used to play a lot of hardcore, and I always like thought of it like, you know, if you don't engage early with the league and learn the ins and outs of the league, then you wait until you're in maps, right? And then the first time you do the league mechanic, you die because you don't know how it works. And so I've always felt like I have to engage with the league mechanic from an early time on, just to learn how it works, how the in and outs work, how the different encounters work, what the different enemies do, and like learn as they get harder and harder, so that when I'm at a point where they can easily kill me, I already know how they work. But you know, now that I'm playing softcore trade, obviously I'm a lot more open to just rushing to maps and then getting my my face pushed in by the league mechanic. But there's so many different encounters and so many things that yeah, I'll definitely try and get some in during the acts, because yeah, like it's gonna be nice to have some of the currencies, some of the minerals or whatever it's called, to work with and to get into the rewards. And like the way that I look at the mini mapping and the sending your guys to expeditions and using the recombination and getting the runesmith crafting, all that stuff is just delayed league rewards, right? Like those are your rewards for engaging with the league outside of getting a little bit of gold from the encounters, I presume. So you do have to engage with it, otherwise you're just doing the encounters and the maps, and they're a waste of time, because you're probably going to get better rewards from the encounters and maps once you're in maps, right? So you have to skip everything. Is that what you're planning then also, Balor, I guess? Just run past it in the zones.
I mean, depends on how long it takes. Like if there are mines while I'm leveling and whatnot, and I can just like click them and move, I'll probably still do it. Like it's a little different for me because I level as a group too. So generally, if I'm the person running, I'm going to skip everything.
Fair enough.
But then the runner will swap. Like I'll run for a little while, and then if I'm not the highest level person, then highest level person will swap. They'll become the runner, and then I'm just running zones for XP. So even after Act 1, because I'm in that little group scenario, I'll engage the league mechanics all the time if I'm not the runner at the time, right?
Oh, that's a great segue or like keyword. Are you actually playing softcore trade this time around, or are you doing the Valor Private League again?
Softcore trade. It's too troll to go private league this league. Like, couldn't do it.
But the people who are doing the private league in your community are still doing the private league?
Yes. There's still a private league just like I normally run. One of my mods is running it. He wanted to do it, and I don't know, like half of the people who were normally involved were still wanting to do it.
Yeah, I was really tempted to do it because especially, well, I was thinking if you're playing, I'm definitely playing, but if you're saying softcore trade, then I might go softcore trade from the start because a lot of people in my community were like, yeah, last league you guys were all in private league, so softcore trade was less fun for me, so please come back to softcore trade. So, but I'm like, there's only one Leaguestart, right? And then might as well start in a private league and then migrate to softcore trade. So I'm still undecided, but yeah, if you're saying softcore trade, probably doing softcore trade this time around and then just do my own private league after BPL or something like that. But then there's going to be a gauntlet as well.
Not doing that.
You guys playing something different than softcore trade, or are you going for full softcore trade?
I am going full softcore trade. Unless there is something that is interesting, like a private league that has something special to it, then maybe I'll join. But for now, the plan is softcore trade.
Yeah, ditto to that. I've only ever played softcore trade in this game. There will come a day when I finally play hardcore trade, but I don't see myself. I could maybe see myself doing a private league at some point, but I'll never do full blown SSF. Not my cup of tea.
Fair enough.
Enjoy trading items too much.
Yeah, I tried.
I did play it hardcore, but it lasts for like 30 minutes. And
well, need.
I hope it was the most fun 30 minutes of your life.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Anyway, click public service announcement, guys. The torrent is up. You can download the torrent file for the Settlers of Kalguur content GGPK. It's a total of 40 gigabytes, and you can download it and then copy it into your actual install folder once the patching server is up. 3 hours before Path of Exile Settlers of Kalguur launches, it says. So that would be at 5 p.m. GMT, I believe. Yeah. Because it's 8 p.m. GMT, because it's 10 p.m. my local, yeah, is when it actually launches. So 3 hours before that, 5 p.m. GMT. But yeah, go for that, guys, because otherwise you're going to have to get stuck in patching for a long time. Especially if you're on a slower connection, you want to preload the patch and have all the content GGPK already there, so you just have to move it into the folder. Just, saw that in chat and brought it up because some people are unaware, and among which I'm always like looking for the torrent file, but there were definitely leaks in the past where I missed it because it's always posted as Path of Exile, Settlers of Kalguur launches soon, or whatever the name of the league is, right? That's always the name of the forum post, that it launches soon. And I never click that because I'm like, I already know it launches soon. When does the torrent come up? But the torrent is in there, so click it. All right. Yeah, so we touched on all the delayed reward systems, at least as much as we can touch on them without having experienced them firsthand. They sound very interesting in theory. So anything else you guys want to talk about? I'm getting really tired here because it's so unfortunate for my time zone today.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I would just pose a question to you guys. There's so many different changes to the game this time. The league mechanics looks to be the most robust thing they've ever done. The ascendancy reworks, the throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, all the things coming back. I would just be curious to know what your guys' single greatest thing you're most excited for this upcoming league out of all the different variables in play.
Marionettes.
Yeah, I'll go first. Marionettes. I'd say it's just although that slide of wrapping 2 or 3 things into one big thing, but like the melee rework, like the massive skill rebalance, and like really this feeling of the game is not solved at all, and we won't know what the best and the most popular builds are going to be 1 to 2 weeks in. That I think I find the most interesting. And I mean, I've said that with past leagues before, but this league I really mean it when I say I wouldn't even need the league mechanic. I would be totally happy with all the changes just playing Necropolis again. But you're probably gonna scold me for saying that. I did do a quick Necropolis Ruthless run after I came back from LA, because I wanted to improve my controller play, so I played controller, but then on controller you don't want to do a lot of micromanagement, so I played Ruthless, so I get less items, and I was so incredibly lucky that by the time I beat Kitava, I had dropped added cold damage, and Trinity, and weapon elemental damage support, and then I stopped playing, and I was like, oh, that's not representative of a real Ruthless run, because normally if you play Ruthless, you won't have a 4-link by the time you kill Kitava, at least not the support gems for it.
If I understand you right, you're actually less casual than Kripparrian.
You think? How am I less casual than Kripparrian?
Necropolis Ruthless was too hardcore for him this past league. But you're sitting here.
Oh, but he played it before they changed it. He quit before they made some adjustments.
Wow.
I made a really good bow. Before I got into maps. Triple elemental damage. I was so happy.
I'd rather play Standard League than Necropolis again.
Same thing. Only Necropolis gives you options. Necropolis and Ruthless is actually kind of good.
The corpses get in the way of my loot that's on the floor. And you can't turn
But on controller, you don't have to mouse over the corpses to pick them up. You just press a key combo and you automatically pick them up.
What about UncleJay?
So they're not in the way.
Most exciting.
Yeah, exactly, UncleJay. What are you most excited about?
Well, at this point, I would have to say currency market, because it's just way more convenient, and to me, convenience is probably the worst experience I've had in all previous league was always with some form of trading. So this is going to change a lot.
That's solid top 3 for me.
Valor, you said marionettes. I don't actually fully understand what you mean when you say that.
Oh, Dark Marionettes is the specter that automatically explodes and then reconstitutes itself.
Yeah. That is my top 2, by the way.
Full automated
back into the game, or what?
Yeah, the corpses exist again.
Yeah, you can get them from ritual, like all the affliction corpses.
Except now we've got a helmet that adds +4 specters, so I'm going to be running around with like 9 of them instead of 5 of them, and
maybe just 8 is good enough, right? 8 to 9.
Maybe 8. Yeah. Maybe 8. I might go 8 and get like a tank chest, because
exactly that is exactly my approach. That is exactly my approach.
I was thinking about
You guys doing the same build?
What's the one? I was thinking about the +5 max res giga armor crit immune chest.
Brass dome.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one. Like
that is exactly my build. Oh my gosh. You are
watch out, guys. The price of those
just please do not use that too early. Anyway, there's actually a lot of options for tanky chests. We have like the Doppelganger's Guys is also super good.
Yep.
The
was on my short list.
Fort Wells is also super good.
That was also on my list. Yep.
Yeah. So basically, there's a bunch of tanky chests. Like for example, you can still use like Cloak of Flame and the Lightning Coil. Yeah, there's a lot of options, so it's not going to be running out. I normally, when I build the character, I just check whichever one is the cheapest. I go for it and build around.
Lightning Coil and Cloak of Flame are going to be such insane powerhouses now that they're not nerfed, but the global availability of physical taking as elemental is nerfed so hard.
Actually, do you guys think some of the value in those chests is riding on the fact that you can close the gap in other ways to reach 100%, and maybe they're not as valuable because you can no longer do that? So you would just all in scale defense it differently? And
Because
it's
depends
No,
on
they're just the single big chunks of conversion that you can get.
Yeah.
yeah,
depends
the
on
number
build,
is
really.
pretty.
because
For
of how
example,
because-
in my case, I want to tank everything that is going to hit me because it is a cast when stun. So I supposed to want to be hit, right? So that is different from like a build. For example, if you just run around and you don't want to get hit often. So those two
Like
things are completely different in terms of the value of the stat on the item.
and it's mostly important because of how armor works,
True.
right? If you can only get, let's say, 30,000 armor, which is like a reasonable amount to get without being super giga highly focused on it, 30,000 armor doesn't do shit against a 10,000 hit. It's not that effective, but it's really effective against a 5,000 hit. So if you get a 10,000 hit and you can take 50% of it and make it not physical, then your 30,000 armor is great, right? So like that's why the conversion will still be fine.
I kind of have one question. Does anyone know any information about Tattoo coming to the next league? Because
Yeah, they'll still be
from
in.
last
They come from
league,
the boat.
I think last league is from the league mechanic, right?
Mhm.
Right now,
We saw them in the
league-
boats.
Oh,
Yeah, I've only
okay.
rumors, but I mean, if Balor knows for sure, then
We
I
like
assume
in
they're
the
Yeah.
trailer. We saw some in the shipments, like the
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
They're
I
also
really
in
like-
the announcement page under the point established trade routes. Each pawn
Because-
will return specific rewards based on what you
But there's
sent
the
them.
Tattoo for Minion Live Balor.
yes, yeah. And in life, everywhere.
I know where tattoos come from. They come from the trade site.
Oh yeah, true. I didn't.
Yeah,
know
true.
that.
They're stackable, so they come from the auction house, actually.
Oh, that is gonna be very flippable. Damn it. Oh no, wait.
Right, I only
It's
need
highly
about
flippable.
shipment. No, but it
I-
comes from shipment now, so probably everyone is going to have some form of it. So probably there's going to be more tattoos. I hope so.
I only need about 20 of them anyway for 100% increased minion life.
What if
So-
each of them cost one divine?
Then I'll buy 20.
Okay.
Fair call.
What if each of them costs 5 divines? I'm still going to buy however many
Oh,
I
yeah.
need. I,
It's just going to be like build guide friendly, you know.
yeah, I'm not trying to make marionettes.
I don't put tattoos in my
new
guide.
player friendly. That's going to be my degenerate build. I'm going to invest so much into that.
Damn, I need to be quick. I need to be faster than you to get
Good luck.
going.
I'm not that fast.
Before
You
the
can be faster
prices
than me.
all jumped up, because last week we already seen how you do with the holy relic.
You can be faster than me. I'm not that quick.
No, I'm even slower.
And lazier.
Easier.
Right. No, but if you had to recommend a build for a new player, Balor, which one would it be? I feel like
Holy
I'm a
Relic.
new player, and like, what should I play tomorrow? I have no idea.
You know what? I say Holy Relic because I'm biased towards it because it's really strong. But if you're a brand new player, my number one answer is the same as it's been for ages. Play Righteous Fire. Whichever
Oh,
version
yeah.
Pox is playing this season, play that.
Same.
Yeah.
Is that
Righteous
that version using 1,000 life calms heart?
No.
That is a shit item.
Sad.
Yeah, it's still trash. That thing needs
But I
to
want
have
it to
like
be good.
If they
I
didn't
don't
buff
know.
the life in general, maybe there's the place for it. But now they buff
Yeah.
every life on the.
that
rare
thing
items.
needs like 2,000 life before I'd even look at it. I don't.
Yeah.
The thing needs Eldritch implicits. That's all it needs.
That would help.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Or give them
Yeah.
the socket.
This league, the RF Chieftain Pox has gone with no RF Chieftains, but if you're brand new, RF Chieftain do that. Follow Pox's guide. It's just look, I want to say my build for Holy Relic because I know how good it is. But like if it's your first time playing, it's still too complicated, man. Like RF Chieftain is just so simple and easy to play. And it's so tanky. Yeah, the damage is a bit low, but like you're not even gonna know what you're missing out of. It's your first time.
Exactly.
Like, and you'll live through everything and get to experience all the things. So that's the one.
Infernal Cry doesn't cover enemies in S anymore.
Also,
I'm sad.
Pox RF actually is a very good start to like respec later to my build. right? So that is an additional reason.
Nice.
Right. So I'm gonna have to say, after having played it in Ruthless SSF, go Rain of Arrows. I mean, I played Raider, so you won't be able to play that anymore. You're gonna have to go Warden, but Rain of Arrows is such a powerhouse for the campaign, and it just continues to be good in maps as elemental build. I mean, and then you can transition into any other bow build that you like, right? You could do Lightning Arrow, could do Tornado Shot, you could do any number of crazy Warden bow builds.
That sounds like me. Who-
But no, really,
Again,
Rain of
showing
Arrows
your
was
true
remarkably good on a
Not
4-link
being
and with a
casual.
crap bow.
We've been slowly converting him. There's only like a league or two ago
God.
that I got him onto a good loot filter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, that's my league starter. The leveling, I'm going to be leveling is Rain of Arrows, actually.
Really?
Like you just said. Yeah.
And is that also what
I mean,
you
can
recommend
level
for a new
elemental hit at
player?
the spectrum right from the get-go. That's a transfigured gem. People are going to be concerned about how to get that gem. I mean,
Yeah, also the
there's
non-transfigured
thousands
version
of
doesn't work with
people
Raged
running
anymore.
lab. Yeah, by the way, to anyone who's concerned about like league starts with transfigured gems, anyone in the audience, you
It's
have to
fine.
realize how many people run lab on day one. Transfigured
True.
gems that are very expensive later on, a month later, a few weeks later, that makes sense in the context of an environment where nobody's running lab anymore. But when you have
Yep.
thousands, tens of thousands of players running 4 separate labs on day, well, maybe not that many running 4 separate labs, but the number of lab conversions taking place into a transfigured gem that take place on day one are so unbelievably high. There will be hundreds of copies of every single transfigured gem that exists by
And-
the end of day one.
And every owner is going to be looking for just a handful of chaos to get their next upgrade.
Yeah.
Because they're not
Yeah,
looking
they're
for
gonna
much.
be-
They
they're
just
gonna-
want something now.
They're not going to be sitting on it. Yeah.
Last league, I thought the Detonate Dead gem is going to be super, super expensive on Leaguestart. Apparently, it's like 15 chaos.
Yeah, it's the supply is too high.
Dirt cheap.
Supply's too high.
Last quick side note, little tiny tangent. Did everyone get as much of a laugh as me when they nerfed Detonate Dead like 4 different ways and it looked dead, and then like a day and a half later they were like, "Lol, his Archmage Detonate Dead. It does more damage than it ever did before."
I wasn't aware of that now.
Yeah,
That's too
it's
funny.
just Archmage now, and it's stronger than it was.
Well,
They
technically,
tried so hard. They nerfed every single part of it. And
I
then
hate it. It
a day
is.
and a half
It is.
later, the community was like, "Here it is, Detonate Dead, still working."
Is it because they buffed Archmage in some sort of considerable way? That
No,
makes
it's
it stronger?
it's actually how it should have been played last league, because it's better, but no one went looking for a better way to do it because it was performing so well. And then they nerfed
okay,
the
yeah,
shit out of it, and then somebody was like, "All right, here's it again, but better."
Well, so someone must have played it last league but flown under the radar.
But I think it's part of the reason is because of the new enchant, right? That they tease, which trigger fire spell on weapon hit or something. It's like Mjolnir but fire.
Oh, I didn't see a build using that one.
Yeah,
I just
it
saw
is
the
in-
normal Lancing Steel cock, but Armageddon brand, not Armageddon, Archmage instead. And I was like, "Oh, okay, shit."
But with that one, and of course the Squire, because I think that is unique to like a one-handed axe or something like that. But with the Squire, you can have a actual 6-linked.
Oh,
Imagine that. Imagine that. Even though it's an axe, but still.
shit.
Yeah, that's
just-
fair.
I just feel bad for the people who like have to balance stuff, who decided, all right, it's time for DD to finally see its day. Done. And then I read the patch notes, and even I was looking at it and I'm like, yeah, that does it. That does it. You've killed DD.
Yeah.
We can all move on. And then like a day and a half later, boom, here's a new DD build. It's like,
I just wonder why they always gotta get shit. They try to kill a skill and they don't kill it successfully, they get shit. And if they had killed it successfully, like they killed Blade Vortex when they did the 4-pronged nerf, they would have gotten shit for killing it successfully. It's like they can't do it right.
I mean, they can
I
just make
wanted it
DD not a
deleted.
spell, right? If they make DD not a spell, it will solve the problem.
I don't know. I wanted it deleted and
Or
it didn't
remove the
get
spell
deleted,
tag,
but oh
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
I
just
can't
remove the
blame them.
spell tag.
I can't blame them. I didn't see it coming.
That
When
would
I read
actually
the
kind of
patch
make
notes,
sense.
I thought they'd nailed it. I was like, yay, the death of DD. No more DD. No one's playing DD again. It's dead now. Stop. No, it's not.
Or like,
Okay.
Yeah, if there's a gem that for some reason it's designed in such a way that it just outshines everything else, and it doesn't even matter, they can nerf it 6 ways from Sunday. And yeah, probably the best thing to do is just start removing tags from it, and that will shut it down pretty fast. If you remove synergies.
Don't give them ideas. Well,
I could care less
no.
if DD gets nerfed to the ground. I mean, I experimented with it a little bit, so I understand its power, but it's not. Well, let's just say it's not really core to the archetype of gameplay I like.
well, right now, if they keep the Dark Marionette in the game, I would be happy to just delete DD from the game, as long as I have the alternative.
All right.
Wait.
Well, I think we covered about everything that we want to cover. Do you guys want to quickly tell people what they should be hyped about when they're looking at your content for the next league? Or should I just cover that? Guys, if you want to get more updates on the Dark Marionette build, check out Balor or check out UncleJay for an alternative version. And let's see who's better. And we do a big build cook-off at the end of the month. If you want to see SnooBAE min-max his... Wait, what are you playing again? Rain of Arrows into... Wait, I got it. What is the skill?
Elemental hit of
Elemental hit of the spectrum, right?
Yeah. The Warden
spectrum.
ascendancy. Unbelievably overpowered now.
Right. And yeah, and if you want to find out what I Leaguestart with, because I probably will change my idea last minute, then you want to check out my content. And there will be more FATED. Not only did we have our first episodes in Ages today, but there's also going to be a episode every week from now on again until I
Get bored.
manage to not plan one together. But yeah, we oh yeah, true. But yeah, I'm also sure there will be more PoE2 news since this time, and I think I also want to quickly highlight that. I praise that they separated the PoE2 announcement. They didn't do any PoE2 announcement in the PoE1 announcement, which is what everyone wanted because the people hyped for PoE1, a lot of them don't want to see PoE2 in the same announcement, which makes sense. And I'm happy that they did respect that and that they're going with a different route and they're just doing another promo event for PoE2 likely in a month or two from now, when they got some new stuff to talk about. So that's also when we're going to hopefully talk more about PoE2 and get some of the people on that we met in LA who had some first-hand experience. But until then, we'll be joined on Tuesday. That is the... wait, I got it here. We got Tuesday, July the 30th at 9 a.m. GMT with Lighty and Talkative Try, all about the first impressions of the Settlers of Kalguur. So tune in for that one if you're hyped. And until then, have a very lucky Leaguestart. Stay away from the obvious noob traps and the non-melee builds. No. Go for the melee builds so we can get our cheap spellcaster and bow gear. And see you for the next one, guys. Good luck, everyone. And thanks to UncleJay and SnooBAE for coming on and spending your time with us. And guys, if you enjoyed the conversation, check out these wonderful broadcasters as well. See you on the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, I didn't update the outro yet. So the outro is kind of the old outro. So if you're buying a paid subscription on one of the paid platforms, you are going to be in the next outro. That's a fact. If I find the outro, where's the outro here? Nice. There we go.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.